InsideSales.com and the AAISP are excited to welcome you to The Plaza, your homepage for the 4th Annual Sales Acceleration Summit, the world's largest online sales summit. We'd like to thank our sponsors for making this event possible. Please show them your support by visiting the Expo Hall. Inside each booth, you will find free resources, the ability to chat with a rep, or the chance to try something amazing like our immediate response system. Let's head back to the Plaza. The summit features 50 speaker sessions given by today's top sales leaders. Here are a few tips to help you navigate the agenda. Set your time zone. Sort by track. Hover over each session or click on it to see more information about that session. If you'd like to build your own agenda, go through the list and click the briefcase icon for the sessions you'd like to watch. Select your briefcase to see your personalized agenda. Want to listen to a specific speaker? Use the search function to find a name or subject. Like it? Then rate it. Let us know who we should bring back next year. Once inside a session, try downloading one of the free resources. Be a leader in your field and share these groundbreaking ideas using the hashtag #SalesSummit. If anything freezes up during your session, just refresh your browser. Let's head back to the Plaza. In hashtag #SalesSummit room, chat with attendees or share things you've learned with your friends and colleagues via LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook. After today, this event will be available for on-demand viewing for up to 2 weeks. Thank you for attending the Sales Acceleration Summit today, and have a great time.
Great, thank you very much for the introduction. Again, my name is Henry Schuck. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Discover.org. It's really great to present on this topic. We've been presenting on email tips and tricks for the last almost 9 years through a variation of this webinar, which has changed over the years and constantly gets updated with content. So really excited to be here and present on this topic again. So my name's Henry Schuck. I'm the CEO of Discover.org. If you're not familiar with Discover.org, we're a sales intelligence platform that's focused on providing really high-quality contact, company, and intelligence around contacts and companies for people who sell into IT, finance, marketing, HR, and the sales departments. We're covering really deep data, including 96% direct dial phone numbers, projects and initiatives and spending initiatives that are taking place at companies on over 60,000 companies worldwide. And our clients, who represent some of the largest technology vendors in the country down to small 5 to 10 person startups, are seeing significant realization of on their investments with Discover.org. They're seeing 30% increases in email response rates, 50% less time researching prospects, 20% increases in appointments set each month, a 20% increase in sales, and many times 30 to 60x ROI. If you're not a customer of Discover.org and you're running a sales development team, an inside sales team, a field sales team, or a marketing team, please check us out, discoverorg.com. We'd love to show you a demo of how accurate and integrated intelligence into your sales and marketing processes can significantly move the needle. So why are we all here? We did a study on the state of outbound prospecting where we talked to just over 1,000 technology decision makers across the Fortune 5000. And we asked them, how many times have you taken an appointment from a cold call or a cold email? And much to our surprise or our delight, really, 75% of technology executives told us that they've taken an appointment because of a cold call or a cold email. And 60%, now this is the real ringer, 60% of them told us that a cold call or a cold email bumped a new vendor into consideration for a purchase that they otherwise wouldn't have been in consideration for. So without cold calling, without cold emailing, without reaching out to a prospect that you otherwise don't have a relationship with, 60% of opportunities, 60% of those people would have missed out on an opportunity had they not done that. So outbound prospecting, as everybody on this call knows, is alive and well. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to get your emails to be less cold, to be warmer, first of all. And then second of all, how to make sure you can be really personalized in your emails, even at scale. So, first we'll talk a little bit about the goals of a lead gen piece. And so, to get to that, you should be thinking about the fact that the prospects are making a decision about whether or not to delete your email in 2.7 seconds. That's an important stat and an important number, because it's not are they making a decision on whether or not to read your email. They're making a decision about whether or not to delete your email. And so when they're looking through their 200 emails a day, they're not deciding what to read. They're deciding what they're able to delete without reading. And so that's important. You have to be really real scientific in the way that you're reaching out to these folks. We're going to talk to you about subject lines and the body of emails, but just keep that in mind throughout this. And so the goal of the piece is to encourage a response or to get an acceptance to an offer. That's what you want to do in your outbound email. That's it. You want to get them to respond somehow, to either say they'll take a look, they'll do a demo, they'll accept your offer. And so every email's got to have an offer, and every email should be designed to get an acceptance for that offer. And the biggest mistake that we see clients making is focusing on their product or service instead of the response and the offer and the value that's being delivered. It's not a time in your cold email to wax poetic on how you're helping thousands of customers. You want to be quick and to the point, make sure you have an offer, and you want to work on getting an acceptance to that offer. And so the number one most important thing to keep to focus on in your emails is the subject line. This is the most important part of getting your email read. And so if you look at this study by Experian Marketing Services, all of these different elements that were tested to try and get an email to be responded to, of all of these different things, subject line far and away made the most impact on response rates. And you'll see frequency and call to action also show up there. We'll be talking about those. Day of the week is not really a big one for us. There are studies that say different things, but subject line, creative, or for us, the body of the message, call to action, and frequency are things we'll be talking about today. So keep in mind, people are incredibly busy, and so they're drawn to the subject line. You want the subject line to create curiosity so that they're willing to go read the body of the message, or provide some sort of utility. So in the subject line, you can request a specific action. You want to make it relevant to the prospect's wants or needs if you can. Ideally, if you have a pain point that you know that they're experiencing, you'd like to be able to talk about that in the subject line. And a couple quick rules of thumb. Do not make your subject lines more than 50 characters. Not 50 words, but 50 characters. And if you can, keep in mind that 27 characters are the maximum that are displayed on an iPhone subject line. So everything beyond 27 characters is not going to get read. So if you can do it, keep it below 27 characters. Here are a couple subject lines that we really like and we've used and seen our customers use successfully. Can we talk March 12th? Connect with key IT decision makers. This is one where we look for a pain point. We know that our clients, the ones that sell to technology, have a struggle to connect with IT decision makers. So we're putting that pain point right in the subject line. Company name and then person's title or area. So this would look like American Express Information Security, American Express Application Development. Should we talk, or can we set up a call? Or first name, can I get 15 minutes? We like as well. Following up, so we're going to talk about cadence and having multiple touch points when you're doing outbound cold emailing, but After the initial email, following up is a great subject line. Widget Corp, if you're working with a competitor or a company that's in a similar space, using their name in the subject line is a great subject line. And John Smith, if you've done work with or you know somebody within the company, it's a mutual contact, using their name as in the subject line is also important. As people go to open their emails, one of the main questions they're asking themselves is, do I know this person or not? Most of us fall into the second category of I don't know this person, so is the subject line compelling enough to get me to read further? If you do know a person at the company, you can stay in sort of group one. If you know someone at the company, John Smith, using that, or if that's given to you as an internal referral, that's a great way to not have to be that creative or clever with your subject line. You can just get it read that way. So the body of your email. This is critical. It is critical to keep the body of your email very simple. And so we're going to go through a 4-sentence process that we adapted from ToutApp for how that would work. And there are some examples here that are specific around technology. So sentence number 1 is your opportunity to build rapport. So that's going to look like, hi, John. I'll always start with an informal salutation, hi, and the person's first name. Hi, John. I wanted to reach out to you because I work with other than their title. Or if you're a Discover Org customer, their title type. So if you know they're Chief Information Security Officers or you're working off a list of Chief Information Security Officers, this is a great opportunity to say, I wanted to reach out to you because I work with other Chief Information Security Officers. I work with other Chief Marketing Officers. I work with other cybersecurity analysts, whatever it is. Insert the industry, in the manufacturing industry, in the finance industry, in the private equity industry, whatever that industry is of that person, which you should have in your list if you're investing in good data to run your campaign, you should merge those two things. Because right out of the gates, you look much different than every Tom, Dick, and Harry who's emailing this person today. Because it's very clear you have been targeted with your approach, and that's very important. Sentence 1's out of the way. Sentence 2, explain how you can help the person. And here's an easy way to do it. I think our product can help you blah, 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 whatever it is. I think our product can help you scale as you grow your team. Or I think we can help you avoid internal cybersecurity threats through our technology. And then we've helped a number of companies do this to date, including big company, small company, innovative company. I think our technology can help you handle increases in web and API traffic. We're doing the same for Uber and Zillow. So if you have recognizable names or competitors, use them in this second sentence or use them in the third sentence. You can break this out. I'm sorry, you're going to use this in the third sentence regardless. But sentence 3, as you've seen above, is adding social proof. We work with ABC, DEF, and GHI and help them with their XYZ. That's simple. That's short. It's incredibly important that it's that simple and that short. Sentence 4, you saw in the chart, call to action is incredibly important. That can be something like, John, can I get 20 minutes tomorrow or Wednesday for a quick call? John, is there someone better to speak at XYZ company for 20 minutes? Writing short emails like this gets to the point. It whets the recipient's appetite to take your call, and it's easily readable and actionable on mobile. So we're seeing over 50% of our emails get open on mobile. This is the format you want to use. 4 sentences, no more. Focus on your call to action. Focus on your social proof. In 1 sentence, tell them what you can help them with, and build rapport right out of the gates. Here's what not to do. This is an email that I received in 2012. I've received the same iteration of this email for years and years after from the same people. I've included this now for 4 years in my presentations, and I've never read the whole thing. And because it is painful. If you are doing this, just stop. Go to the 4-sentence approach. You want to get a concrete response, and ideally you don't want to leave it up to the recipient to take the next step. So try to create a sense of urgency. How can you do that? You can say, I will call you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Let me know if that works. And here's some other iterations of that close. I look forward to your reply, John. I'll give you a call on Wednesday, John. I'll be in your area on Friday. Would it be okay if I swung by in the afternoon? You can see over here to the right is an example of one of the methods that we've used, where we say, this is just an example of the depth of our data. Let's set up 15 minutes to dive into your target market. How does tomorrow at 10 a.m. PST work for you? The follow-up. This is critically important. If you are doing one-touch emails where you send out one email and then you call it in, that is not a strategy. That's just a waste of time. In fact, we see an over 300% increase on our emails when we send the first follow-up message. So, for example, if I send out 100 emails on Monday and I get 3 responses to those emails, when I send out the follow-up on Wednesday, I'm seeing 9 responses on that follow-up email. And this is a cadence that we actually run internally at Discover.org. So day 1, they get an email. Day 2, they get another email. We skip day 3. Day 4, they get an email. Day 5, they get a call. Day 6, they get an email. 8 email, 10 email, 14 call, and an email. Day 16 call. Day 17 email, 19 email. Day 23 is an alligator or a breakup email. So this is a process we run everybody through. You should create a cadence and figure out where the most responses are happening for you and optimize along the scale. It's incredibly important that you're not just sending one email and cashing it in. If somebody responds and tells you they're not the right person to be speaking with, this is a great opportunity to get that internal referral. So this is where you ask, you say, John, thanks for your response. Do you know who would be in charge of storage at XYZ Corp or whatever it is that you're trying to connect with? When they tell you the name, remember you use the name in the subject line. So when you email that person, you use the referrer's name in the subject line. Hey, John, I just communicated with Jimmy. Jimmy said that you're the right person to talk to about storage. This is what we do. This is a strategy. Most of the things we're talking about are a strategy that have been espoused by Cloudera, which is a fast-growing technology company based in San Francisco. It's one of those unicorn companies. They have a very intense account-based sales development strategy where their SDRs are engaging 200 to 300 stakeholders per account. And they'll schedule as many as 15 meetings per company. So they engage 5 to 10 times as many stakeholders in each opportunity than they had in the past, and they've seen a 35% lift in their opportunities within existing customers. Keep in mind that the way Cloudera works is it's open source, and so then someone can download it and use it, or multiple developers can download it and use it, and then Cloudera goes in and tries to sell an enterprise agreement. So they leverage Discover.org to build very thorough contact lists in their target accounts, and they leverage keyword searches in Discover.org to get very specific role targeting around the pain that Cloudera solves, and then they get broad reach out against that. And so if you're doing outbound sales or outbound prospecting or account-based marketing or account-based sales development strategy, Lars Nielsen, who's the VP of Global Inside Sales there, said, selecting the right contact data provider is essential for executing enterprise outreach program. And so here's a little bit of what they do. This is from a Topo case study. They use keywords like big data, Hadoop, data architecture, to find people whose job descriptions cover that. They use specific titles, like someone who's a chief scientist or data architect or big data. They look within specific companies, so they know that they're great in retail, and they know they're great in computer software, so they're looking at people within that. And then if you take a look at the ideal customer profile that they've listed down here, they're looking for companies that are $1 billion in revenue and above. They're looking for VPs of IT, Chief Information Security Officers, or Chief Scientists. They're looking for very specific pains. The prospect has an interest in learning more about Cloudera solutions around Hadoop or big data. And then they go to set that meeting. So an email for them, for example, looks like this. Hi, John. And so the subject line is how Wells Fargo uses big data. And they'll reach out to Chase.com for that, or to Chase about that. Remember, industry specific. If I'm reaching out to Chase, I'm talking about Wells Fargo. That easy. Hi, John. I'm reaching out because Cloudera has helped some of the world's largest financial institutions with big data Hadoop solutions. Stop. What have I done so far? I'm talking about your industry. I'm talking about big data, and if I did my contact acquisition right, you're responsible for big data. So it's industry specific. Then they lead with insights. You may find our work with Wells Fargo particularly relevant. Cloudera established the first PCI certified financial services Hadoop big data hub, which that company uses in their organization with data security, financial services industry. This was the best option for them. Lead with the insights. Share a story. Then here's a very clear call to action like we were discussing. Do you have 10 minutes this week to discuss this use case further and how we might work with Chase? Looking forward to hearing from you. That's simple. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are your sentences. You're focused. It's short. It's relevant. It makes you stand out because you're talking about industry-specific and context-specific solutions. And that's it for my time. Thank you very much. I think we're going to open up for questions here in a little bit, and so I'll be around to answer any of your questions. But thank you very much for sticking through with us. I'm hopeful this was chock full of examples that you can use right now. You should be able to turn around right now and use these examples. Thanks.
Hello and welcome. It's my pleasure to present Getting What You Need to Succeed. This session addresses one of sales' greatest challenges, which is getting access to the right resources at the right time. My name is Lisa Clark of QStream, a Boston-based SaaS solutions company focused exclusively on the human side of sales acceleration. We leverage a perfect storm of mobile, science, and data to improve capabilities of your sales reps and managers at scale in just minutes a day. Visit qstream.com to learn more. Before we dive in, I wanted to let you know we're actively following social channels during and after this session, so feel free to ask questions or share thoughts at QStream #SalesChallenges. In the latest research by InsideSales.com and the AAISP, access to adequate sales resources is ranked by sales personnel as the third most common challenge in selling today. While the right sales process is important, so is your rep's ability to get the resources they need to drive all stages of the buying process, especially when market experts and product specialists aren't always available to them. I suspect more often than not today, when we talk about access to resources, we tend to think about content. And herein also lies the challenge, I think. Not all content strategies are created equal. In the past year or so, we've seen a number of vendors enter the sales asset management space, or SAM, S-A-M, probably one a month. Some of the companies now offering SAM systems are not new, but are new to the space. Some are better known in the marketing community for content management. Others have a track record in specific verticals like banking or insurance. Although they may help the rep, many of their common features are not standardized. For example, while they all have search capabilities, the algorithms are different and deliver different results, perpetuating the problem of easy access. As a marketing person myself, I know that these solutions can be time-consuming and hard to manage at scale. Certainly, CRM and content portals can help your reps, but those tools are intended to align with the demands of sales processes and not your salespeople. And since we know the sales function remains in need of massive change to help reps sell more contextually at higher levels, I can't help but wonder if these solutions, while helpful to the marketing team for distributing and measuring content, might just be answering questions that customers aren't necessarily asking. After all, how could they? The needs of buyers have changed. Most of the information they need in order to buy your product or service they can get online. So your reps need to add value in new, more important ways. The information they bring to the table must be something prospects can't find anywhere else. That means your sellers might not have the resources they need right now anyway, regardless of how good your content or systems are. In addition to strong market knowledge, the right sales skills are critical too. These include things like call planning, identifying customer needs, and demonstrating value. Since all of your strategy, product development, and market knowledge is ultimately brought to life for the customer by your salespeople, the right messenger can make or break your message. And remember, you always get directed to whom you sound like, and that person may not be the decision maker. And speaking of them, one more thing. The number of people in the B2B buying process has changed too. According to the Corporate Executive Board, on average, there are now 5.4 people involved in every buying decision. While the ultimate decision still lies with the executive sponsor, many of these are subject matter experts or relevant members of the prospect's operations team, and they want to speak to a peer, someone who understands their challenges, not a feature-toting salesperson. Let's stop here for just a second and really think about these things. Sales has really changed. It's different now, and the resources required are different too. Are you ready? It's quite possible you're not, which is why reps feel access to adequate resources is a top challenge. Believe it or not, many sales leaders don't stop to consider what each of their sales reps is actually prepared to bring to every customer interaction. We're not talking about prescribed steps or rote presentations, but their ability to add value in the client's buying process, in the sales cycle itself, from first meeting to close. It might not surprise you that great salespeople aren't actually born that way. They're enabled to become skilled professionals through the benefits of coaching, experimentation, and experience. They have a unique ability to create value at every stage of the customer's journey. They provide useful perspectives on how to achieve desired results and help customers make their own best decisions. It's just one of the skills that makes them great. But today, more than 1/3 of enterprise sales reps, even those with extensive market and product training, are unable to apply the context needed to successfully sell into their markets. The findings are based on an analysis of nearly 250,000 responses to scenario-based sales challenges delivered by the QStream platform to sales reps across a range of industries. Perhaps over time, metrics like win rate and quota attainment could give you a picture, but by then, it's too late. If you measure sales enablement to revenue within your organization, you'll see that top performers have one thing in common. They're highly proficient in all aspects of their job. And we're not just talking about selling skills. Their capabilities span many areas, including things like market knowledge, competitive differentiation, compliance, etc. A 2015 MHI research study also shows that top performers are much better at adapting to changing buyer expectations in dynamic environments. They're both knowledgeable and skilled at applying client-specific context throughout the sales cycle. This is achieved in large part because their companies foster a culture where sales training and coaching is valued, ensuring that every rep knows that taking the time to learn and grow is completely encouraged and supported, and the results are worth it. Data from Morningstar and CSI Markets shows that companies that invest in better preparing their teams outperform not only their peers in annual revenue growth by a factor of 3x on average, but blow away the average industry growth rate in general. You can start to see a connection between sales enablement, investments, and revenue. Okay, I think you get a picture of the problem and the reward. Let's move on to the solution. I want to briefly cover 4 areas, one at a time. Important sales resource number 1, market knowledge. As already mentioned, your sales team must help prospects see the future, predicting the impact of your solution on the customer's business, or at least a trajectory of possibility. Doing that requires them to first understand the client's business and any market dynamics at play, such as security, compliance, etc. You need human beings with the knowledge to match the right information to the right people at the right time. Frankly, it's the reason why we have sales forces in the first place. And while there's no replacement for experience, there are some easy shortcuts to mastery. I'm going to pick 2 of them. First is sales intelligence software. Mostly delivered from the cloud, these platforms give reps instant access to background and content information for any prospect, company, or industry. Many of these integrate with social streams to provide additional info about the prospect and with your CRM platform too. We use LinkedIn Navigator and a few others here, but there are a growing number of systems like RainKing or Inside View for sales. Okay, here's a second one, mobile reinforcement. It's a hot and growing sector within sales enablement. So many of the technologies and tools today concern themselves primarily with process automation or measuring activity like number of calls. Many of the emerging reinforcement platforms are uniquely built for on-the-go salespeople and embrace scientific methodologies for reinforcing both knowledge and behaviors at scale. I think one of the most important aspects of this approach, though, is the ease of use and ability to keep pace with market change at scale. Instead of waiting for your next sales meeting or kickoff to react to market changes, you can use a system like this to very quickly align messages around the latest competitive threat or newest market study in just minutes a day. The resulting data from systems like this can also help direct resources toward the reps that might require additional support. Sales fluency maps can help you keep a pulse on what your reps are prepared to bring to client interactions. The data also lets you provide a rich set of real-time reports, dashboards, and trends to sales leadership and executive management to help answer important business questions like, do we even have the right people? Using data tags, you can slice the data to track specific capabilities such as prospecting, competitive, differentiation, negotiation skills, and so on. It's good stuff, but let's move on to the next sales resource challenge. Number 2, access to mentors and field coaches. When it comes to motivation, we've seen money is not always at the top of the list, for millennials anyway, but frequent interaction with their manager is. They value access to feedback. That's probably important for any rep, frankly, especially if it helps them win a deal. At its core, coaching is rather straightforward, but it's not a simple process. It requires a manager to know what his or her direct reports are doing, understand why they're doing it, and help them see how they can be better. Smart coaches also create a safe space for discussion, ask the right questions, listen to the answers, and constructively challenge their reps. Yet many sales managers do very little of this, so reps don't always have access to good feedback. Why is that? Well, according to the Sales Management Association, they said they were just too busy. On average, managers spend roughly 2 days with their individual reps every 8 to 12 weeks. So I'd say we definitely have an access problem. Some also admitted they just didn't have the skills, data, or tools to coach effectively. So how can we fix that? Well, the first thing we can do is make it a priority. If you don't already have a coaching plan in place, please think about creating one. Perhaps monthly reviews or ratings and on-the-spot feedback from managers and peers, or maybe morning coffee, office hours, and team huddles. Whatever, it's all good. Just be accessible and open to providing continuous feedback. Next, give managers the insights they need to deliver good coaching, and not just a checklist of general things they should probably do when they get around to it. Then measure the effectiveness of that coaching. Many execs are turning to technology for this. Things like simple dashboards they can use to identify how to help individuals on their teams to succeed while maximizing their available time together. Let me show you. Here's an example of a dashboard that provides a weekly summary to the manager with team performance data and actionable coaching tips. Using this data, one of the best ways I can think of to help our managers is not only to engage them in understanding the skill levels of their teams, but also to deliver insights that make them better coaches. So actionable data is a top priority. As I just mentioned before, technology can play a big role here. Because managers themselves are juggling priorities, you could also give your reps access to data and dashboards that let them self-manage in between coaching sessions. Virtual coaching and role-play tools with ratings are great ways to supplement one-to-one coaching and peer collaboration. For senior leaders, you might also take it one step further, which is to bring proficiency data into CRM directly. By simply correlating that with the activity and sales performance data in your CRM system, you get a full view of past and predictive outcomes. For example, you'd be able to see pretty quickly if your rep with the biggest pipeline also has the weakest discovery skills. Knowing that lets you both assess forecast accuracy, but also take action to proactively provide additional support. Before we leave this topic of coaching, here's another trend I'd like to share with you. We do this here at QStream informally, but I've seen a lot written about a concept called reverse mentoring. It's a peer coaching strategy that pairs experienced workers with younger folks to educate one another on how business works and new ways of thinking about things. Managers who are open to learning this way get exposed to new ways of doing things, providing a valuable sales resource that you might be overlooking. Okay, let's move on. Many of you are likely very familiar with our next sales resource challenge. That's number 3, access to marketing. Your peers in marketing can offer critical support when it comes to closing that quarterly deal with a reluctant prospect, addressing a competitor's claims, or solving a tough customer problem before it escalates. In addition to getting to know these folks, as mentioned earlier, the depth and breadth of the technology available to them in support of sales is overwhelming, from account-based marketing and email automation to guided selling tools. Unlike content management systems, guided selling technologies are designed to drive sales process alignment. These include Altify, Qvinian playbooks, and others. They're designed to suggest next best steps as well as activities and assets like presentation templates and other collateral pushed to the rep based on information they've entered into a CRM opportunity record. And because suggestions are built on best practices, leveraging what your organization's top performers already do, some solutions offer virtual coaching, letting reps know if missing information could risk a deal. In light of this, it makes sense for marketing to spend time organizing their marketing and sales enablement content for easy access. If for no other reason than the fact that Mike the Marcom manager is in a different office than this guy, your remote rep. Given the nature of our always-on, always-connected business culture, it's become easier for companies to build their workforce with team members based in remote location. This is especially true for sales. Being away from the hustle and bustle of a larger office definitely has its benefits, but it's all too easy for remote reps to live and work in their own little silo. These technologies make sharing critical info and ideas at point of need possible. Team collaboration tools can also be helpful in keeping the teams connected and sharing resources. There are so many I can't keep track anymore, but consider tools like Salesforce Chatter, private Google Groups, as well as secure instant messaging platforms like Slack and Skype. These are great ways and important conduits to help reps and their managers build rapport and stay connected. And finally, one more thing we'd all enjoy more access to, and that's time. It's a frustrating thing to accept, but it's true. In sales, you can make more money, but you can't make more time. Since we don't sell in a black hole space-time continuum, although some sales cycles might feel that way, we need to find more effective ways to be efficient and productive in our processes and with our technologies. According to one study I saw, 31% of reps' time is spent searching for or creating content, probably because they can't find it, and 20% on reporting administrative stuff and CRM-related tasks. Only 1/3 of their day is spent selling. As always, we should take a good long look at what your sales force is spending their time on and eliminate or replace tasks that take up a significant amount of time without providing any ROI. When it comes to our technology investments specifically, here's a recipe we like to use for making more time. First, your reps are busy. With salespeople, you know time is money, so you want the least intrusive process. Choose solutions that are respectful of their time and don't require them to remember logins or consume endless amounts of time searching for or entering the content that they need. Make it easy. Go where your reps are to provide information and support, and that's on their phone, iPad, or maybe from within their CRM. Third, make them want to participate. Make your program enjoyable and worth their time. Never underestimate the motivation factor because it keeps engagement high. Even though it probably goes without saying, that's critical. Finally, be sure to get all your questions answered too. You need data, real-time data on proficiency, activity, engagement, and performance. Look for analytics and reporting that provide detailed insights at the individual level as well as trends by sales team, region, etc. These can inform future investments of time and money in sales resources. So there you have it, a few tips for alleviating one of your rep's top sales challenges. Well, it is impossible to predict the future with complete accuracy, it is possible to evaluate the signs of change already occurring to ensure that your sales force has the right resources they need to succeed. And remember, the more effort you invest in evaluating the changing landscape, the more likely you will achieve your revenue growth targets. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to send your questions to @QStream #SalesChallenges.
Hi, my name is Chris Steele. I'm with Chet Holmes International. Chet Holmes himself passed away a few years ago, but not before leaving a prolific legacy after writing the book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. Changed the landscape of how businesses are developed. And today we're going to talk to you about some of the best techniques to be able to optimize how you develop your business. Love working with inside sales. It's great. I love the fact that you've whittled away about 20 minutes for this brief video presentation that's oriented toward hiring the best salespeople. So the topic of today's presentation is the 2-minute techniques that weed out weak salespeople before you hire them. That's the ideal, is to not spend too much time spinning your cycles around hiring people. So again, at CHI, we're all about helping companies grow faster, better, and smarter. So for the next 20 minutes, go ahead and just be fully present. Make sure you're taking notes. There's going to be a lot of content coming at you here over the course of the next few minutes. So make sure that you're prepared to open your mind to the possibilities of how to put the right people in the right seats in the bus. So let's get right to it. So research of hundreds of top salespeople in all fields show that they have the ability to bond and be friends with almost anyone. That's rapport, being able to develop rapport most effectively. They got the drive, they got the passion, they've got the self-confidence, they know how to close the deal, they know how to get the business, and they're not fazed by rejections or obstacles along the way. Now, there's 5 traits of superstar salespeople. So as we consider what these 5 traits are, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up here. Managing some multimedia, it's always a good thing to do. So as I show you the screen, so you can see on the screen here, you've got the first aspect of the formula to create a top sales force is empathy, making sure that you're finding people that have got empathy. They've got a sincere interest in helping their clients succeed. So being empathetic towards the need of their clients. My definition of sales, it's the process of enrolling people to achieve their vision by leveraging your solution. Write that down. It's the process of enrolling people to leverage, the process of enrolling people to achieve their vision by leveraging your solution. That's what we call sales. And it starts with empathy, being empathetic, knowing that you've got a moral obligation and your people have a moral obligation to make a difference in the lives of your clients and prospects. The second aspect of the formula for hiring a top sales force is ego, ego strength, ego drive, hiring people that know that they're good. They have ambition. They're able to take rejection, and rejection's going to happen in the context of selling. And let it roll off their back like water off a duck's back. Don't take it personally. So then also superior skill sets, being able to keep that edge sharp, being productive. Sales is about leadership. It's about influence and persuasion, and leaders are readers. So bringing people in that are oriented toward optimizing their capability all the time. They're improving their market knowledge, increasing their awareness and increasing their ability to influence people because they're perceived as an expert in the marketplace first. So making sure you bring in people that have got market knowledge and that they're oriented toward training. Just like whether you're a championship level athlete or a championship level sales performer, you're always raising the bar. You're always oriented toward optimizing your ability, your capability to be able to improve how you sell and who you're selling to. So as we get into this, there's rules for hiring superstars, sales superstars, not just anybody off the street. These days, there's a lot of people out there that have got really good resumes. So here's a resume. It's a piece of paper. It's an ad. So it's really important to be able to take the resume, look at it, see what the background is. Probably a lot of rhetoric, maybe a lot of hyperbole in this resume. But look past look beyond the resume. Look past it. You can't hire superstars from a resume. Age and experience don't often matter. The psychological profile is everything when it comes to hiring people. make sure you're designing an ad. So as you talk about an ad, I have an ideal ad right here, which we'll be able to share with you here in a moment if you're interested in actually getting this. But it's the ad that's really oriented toward attracting the right people, superstars only. As a sales champion, you're going to lead sales initiatives. You're going to challenge people to be able to step up. Great perspectives in this ad. What to do next, call to action. But the key, one of the keys with the ad is that it has to scare away the weak. It has to be an ad that's going to attract champions because they know that they are champions. So once you get people engaged, you get them on the phone, make sure you're optimizing your interview techniques. You personally are screening the inquiries. Again, not too many. I mean, as the owner of a business, it's not about having too many inquiries and having to fight through the gauntlet of all the people that want a job, but making sure you're optimizing your interview techniques. And we're going to be talking about that here as we go through today's brief discussion. And really what it comes down to is you're engaging with people, don't be put off by a little arrogance. Top producers know that they're good. Champions know that they're good. So as you're engaging with people, whether it be on the phone or face-to-face, if they're a little cocky, that's not a bad thing necessarily. And they get to be confident when they're confronted with the third degree. And we're going to actually get into the third degree here in a moment. So most superstars will intimidate you to some degree, and they may even come across as a little arrogant. That's because they know that they're good. So don't discount a person's ability to sell or a person's ability to join your culture just because of his confidence. But put them to the test. So talk to them on the phone, screen them initially. If you decide to interview them, tell them before they come into the interview that you want them to write down the 5 questions that they would like to be asked during the interview. So have them bring their own questions in. Tell them that they're going to be judged by the quality of their questions, and that you want questions that are going to show their best sides, questions that are going to tell you a lot about them. So again, tell them to ask to make sure that they're writing down these questions before they come and meet with you. And of course, tell them to bring a resume to the interview. So now you got them into the interview. So they're qualified. You've determined the right personality, the right profile. Now during the interview, there's a 3-step process that we're going to unpack here. We call it relax, probe, and attack. Okay, so write that down. Relax, probe, and attack. The first aspect of the ideal hiring interview as you're running people through the process of understanding that they're the right person for your business, and you get to understand whether or not they're a champion, is to be friendly. Get them to relax. Get them to like you. Try to understand their psyche and who they really are. Tell them, hey, it's great to have you here. I'm not looking for standard answers. I'm looking for authenticity. I want you to be honest so we can discover whether or not you'll be happy here, okay? So let me understand what shaped you. So get them to relax, Then the second step is the probe. So you want to seek deep understanding about their psyche and their background. And if they feel uncomfortable asking questions about their background and themselves, they lack empathy. Top producers actually live to bond with others. So you need to find somebody in their background that gave them confidence. Could be their mother, could be somebody who actually encouraged them along the way, and ask them questions around that. Determine if the candidate's background contributed to their present level of confidence. So ask them questions like, what type of things in your childhood shaped who you are? How were you raised? Tell me about some of the biggest challenges you had in your life. Not necessarily work-related. And ask how they dealt with them. Again, you're probing now. Tell me about the toughest sale you ever had. And again, ask specifics. Drill deeper. What they said, details of the process. What was the crunch? How did they close the deal? And notice, they're probably beginning to sweat a little bit, but again, they're relaxed. You've got them relaxed. You're probing, but again, it's not you're not running them through the gauntlet just yet. You haven't laid down the supreme challenge, which we're going to talk about here in a moment. So make sure that you're looking at other areas of accomplishments as well. Top producers usually have other areas of discipline, physical skill, or accomplishment. So ask them questions like, tell me about a time in your life when you surmounted difficult odds. Tell me about the 3 or 4 things of which you are most proud of. So why? Why are you proud of those? Have you practiced or overachieved in any other area or discipline like sports, music? What levels of knowledge? Can you give me another example of where your personal determination took you through to winning something? So notice your condition. You're cultivating their mindset to be able to step up, to be able to show that they are a champion. And they're probably doing really well at this point. They're conveying themselves well. They're articulating themselves well. You want to determine their ability to bond with other people during this process. Top producers are eager to please and bond with others. So their life is an open book. You know, that you got to determine whether or not they're closed, if they're open. So make sure you ask them things that are going to give you those perspectives. Maybe something along the lines of, tell me, how would your best friend describe you? Of all the people you know, who has the most faith in you? And why is that? And, here's an idea. What are some of your best memories? So again, you're relaxing, you're probing. Now what you want to do is you want to get them to rate themselves, determine what their confidence is. So you want to get them to rate themselves in key areas of confidence. Let me just change the screen here real quick. So as you're looking at the key areas of confidence, you want to determine their areas of confidence. So you can see as we're talking about this, number one, you want to ask them to rate themselves in these 10 areas. Number one is their ego, drive, and ambition. Give me a 1 to 10. Ego, drive, ambition, 1 to 10 scale. 1 meaning that you suck, 10 meaning that you're solid and you're confident. And see how they rate themselves. Ego strength, their confidence. How would you rate yourself? 1 to 10. Your ability to face rejection. Empathy, 1 to 10. Establishing rapport. How well do you do that? Time management. And presentation skills. Your strategic thinking. How strategic are they on a 1 to 10 scale? And again, getting them to reflect on this. What's your market knowledge on a 1 to 10 scale? Ask them that. When it comes to self-improvement, what's your ethic on self-improvement? And of course, getting around the gatekeepers. So as you're looking at these on the screen, one of the things to consider is that you're confronting them with the reality of their condition. And this is really going to allow you to be able to see whether or not these are the people that are going to be compatible and appropriate with your business and your culture. So who's the best salesperson you've ever met? Why is that? If they name themselves, then offer them the job on the spot, right? And if not, ask them what the difference between that person and you is. See, look at all the golden nuggets. I mean, there's a lot of good perspectives out here. And again, as you're empathetic, as again, you guys are business leaders, you understand that if you were in this condition and you're being asked these questions, you're seeing that it's a good challenging opportunity for people to step up. So if you were asked these questions, are you going to be the type of person that steps up? Your prerogative as the owner of the business, as you develop your business, is to make sure that you're challenging people to be able to rate themselves in ways that need to be oriented toward optimizing your business, because that's what it's all about. You also want them to ask them to rate themselves in certain key abilities. So make sure you ask them to rate themselves on 1 to 10 scale in these areas, because these are the superstars are going to rate themselves effectively. So again, run through the gauntlet, 1 to 10. How well do you develop rapport? How well do you qualify people? How well do you build value? Notice what we're doing is we're unpacking the sales process, asking them for whether or not they've got a good capability. And who knows, they might say they're intent on all of these. All right, okay, that's good. That's good to know. Overcoming objections, closing skills. What are your closing skills on a 1 to 10 scale? What are your follow-up skills? What are your presentation skills? Your cold calling skills, as well as your discipline around cold calling. So it's important as you're considering this stuff. Once again, you're confronting people with the reality of the condition of their paradigm. And this is oftentimes some people will cave at this point. If they're engaging with you and the conversation is going well, maybe they are the champion. In a moment, we're actually going to totally vet that. So you want to make sure that you determine their dedication and their desire for improvement. The best ways, the best people are always striving to better themselves. So ask them, what was the last self-help book they ever read? Or a tape, or even a podcast. Which seminars did you attend recently? Ask them, of all the people in the world today, who do you admire most? So again, make sure you're writing this stuff down. After you've bonded and you've got rapport with them, ask them about their resume history. Now you're getting into the context of their past, which people are usually proud of. Why did you leave each of the last 3 positions? Go through that. Have their resume. Make sure you get their resume in your hand. They know you got it. They probably have a copy themselves. Tell me about the last 3 positions. Also, why are you looking? What was bad about the last position, or maybe the position you're currently in? Why are you looking to leave it? Maybe they've already left a job. If you left, why were you unhappy? Ask them, what are their top 3 personal goals? What are you doing right now to achieve them? So what you're doing is you're determining confidence, perseverance in their judgment. Another idea, another question. Tell me about a disappointment or a disagreement with a boss and what happened. Then what? Then, what then? What happened? Unpack them. Get into their psychology. Name 2 weak points of your previous boss, and how did you deal with that? How do you handle stress? What was your technique? Give me some recent examples around managing stress. So one of the overarching thought processes here as you're going through this process is don't react to their answers negatively, or don't even react positively. Just be non-emotive. Be nice and listen. And if you're acting negatively to anything that the person says, that they're going to clam up and they won't tell you anything more. So you have to encourage them to tell you more. Okay, so relax, probe. Now the last point is this is the parameter. This is the key aspect of determining championship level sales performance. It's called the attack. And this separates the men and the women from the boys and the girls. So you have to find somebody that you think is a top communicator, a top producer. They're likable. They have a good sense of self, and they've got good rapport skills. So the attack stage, if you've gone through everything we talked about, relaxing, the probe, it's going to tell you whether or not they really believe in themselves. And this is a prerequisite for top producers. If they can't take rejection and they don't come back even stronger, then frankly, they're never going to be able to close the sale. So the ultimate interview test, it's the attack. So here's the role play. What you want to do is you're talking to them, you're engaging with them, you're understanding who they are, their characteristics, everything we talked about. And then you want to tactfully tell the candidate that you don't think they have the right stuff. Here's the script. Joe, you really seem like a nice person, but I only have one opening and I need a real superstar. So while I'm sure you do well in many other endeavors, this is a very competitive business, and I really don't doubt your particular skills and personality. But frankly, I don't see that how they're going to hold up in this business. I really don't see championship level performance. And look at them directly and watch them crumble. This attack process will amaze you. A lot of candidates will look at you for a minute. They'll crumble. They say, "Well, I guess you know your stuff," and they're going to doubt themselves. But a producer, a champion, is never going to crumble. A top producer is going to say, "What are you, deaf?" They're going to confront you. They're going to say, "Maybe you just didn't hear what I said." A top producer is going to convince you that he or she can do any job, even when you attack or express doubts, because that's the reality of the condition. Again, this is champions. We're looking for champions that are out there. So the attack phase, it may be hard to do for some people. I know when I was, Chet and Met turned me on this several years ago, and it was kind of uncomfortable because you're actually getting into people's psychology and you're confronting them around some core belief systems. You may feel that it's hard to attack the candidate's ability, but if you can convince them that they don't have what it takes, then frankly they're not going to be a top producer, and you get to then usher them out the door. So the bottom line in this context is to only hire the best, and through that process, weed out the people that don't have what it takes. Extend respect to them, honor them, but realize that they're just going to bind your business. That's how it's done. Because too many people out there these days say they're a great resource. They say they have what it takes. Your prerogative is to make sure you relax them, probe, attack, challenge their capability as a championship level performer, and watch your business soar through the process. So what we want to do, again, I know this has been valuable for you. I know you've taken lots of notes, lots of great perspectives. It's the condition of hiring, hiring top producers and champions. Well, what we want to do, of course, we want to always provide additional value. The inside sales folks are about that as well. So I mentioned before the book. Chet Holmes wrote a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. And you can go out and buy that book right now. Frankly, it's my dictionary of business development. So what we're going to do is we're going to give away Chapter 4 of the book. Chapter 4 of The Ultimate Sales Machine is the linchpin chapter of the book. And we're going to give it away for free. And you can see on the screen here, the URL is chetholmes.com/book. 4 sales machine. So you can see the URL right there. This is actually the landing page you'll go to, chetholmes.com/sales machine. And you can download the chapter. It's a prolific chapter. It's chapter 4. It basically is a really good summary of the entire book. And we're giving that away for free. So again, it's one of the things we love to do is, make sure that people get impeccable value through the process and that their business and their life is optimized. We also, by the way, I mentioned before this ad, this hiring ad that I was showing earlier. It was actually this perfect ad. You can see it's multiple pages. You can reduce it. It's flexible. We're actually going to give you the template for that ad. So what you want to do is another URL, type in chetholmes.com/hiring ad. So again, chetholmes.com/hiring ad. So go there. You'll be able to download the template for the ad. A lot of people ask us for that. So we're just giving it away for free. So 20 minutes on the nose. Our ideal for you is that you're equipped to understand what it takes to be able to put the right people in the right seats in the bus. Again, I'm giving you some free stuff here. So as you go back into your day, as you consider how you're developing your business and how you're optimizing, it's really important to make sure that you're taking yourself on and that you're honing the edge and you're doing what it takes. So with that, I'll bid you adieu. Wish you the best. Again, Chris Steele, Chet Holmes International. And my challenge to you is to do what it takes.
Welcome to the Inside Sales Top Sales Challenges Mini Summit. I'm Brian Backoffner, Senior VP at Map Anything, and today we're going to discuss the secrets to better sales performance. But first, a little bit about me. I've spent the last 10 years across various SaaS companies focused on helping salespeople get better. While at Inside View, we were at the forefront of evangelizing social selling for its improvements in enabling access to decision makers. When I was at LeadSpace, we were at the forefront of leveraging predictive analytics to help marketers better prioritize which leads to spend time on and which customers to target. Here at Map Anything, the leading map-based UI for Salesforce, I'm in charge of strategic partnerships. So let's dive in. What do we know about the top sales challenges for sales reps today? Looking at the InsideSales.com research, what we've seen is a consistent challenge in having enough people to call and determining how to find relevance to cut through the noise and get access to decision makers. What I find most interesting about this is with the advent of tools like LinkedIn and social selling and more sophisticated sales intelligence solutions, we haven't gotten much better in the last 3 years. We see these same issues play themselves out with field sales. I think there's a few issues at hand. Number one, we tend to see high-tech sales organizations focus on highly centralized inside sales with a lot of support from marketing via inbound leads. Traditionally, field teams are geo-distributed, in a lot of cases disconnected from marketing and the lead flow. Number two, inside teams tend to cover smaller and mid-sized accounts, where inbound tactics like web forms, online demos seem to work better. Question for the people on the phone, especially those in field sales. When's the last time you received a high-quality inbound lead from a decision maker at something like Bank of America? How about Wells Fargo? What about Coca-Cola? My point being is you tend to not see a lot of inbound lead flow in the enterprise. And that's typically where we deploy our most expensive and most senior field sales resources. For a lot of these reasons, we're seeing a trend in B2B marketing specifically to something called account-based marketing. Targeting accounts specifically with a mix of marketing messages and sales outreach to create maximum velocity for your sales organization. Across field sales organizations, what we've seen is that this is something that's been in place for many years. A lot of field reps come with Rolodexes, they come with a knowledge of their territory. So that's a key challenge that we're seeing play itself out over and over, inside sales and outside sales. So we know sales reps have challenges with leads. Just go get more, right? No problem. I think the key to understanding how we improve is to first understand the problems with traditional lead management. So solving the problem starts with better managing the leads you already have. And what you have is what we call dark data, the unused data of the data matter of your Salesforce first. Think of that. All of your unused leads that were never contacted by a sales rep, old clients that you lost, opportunities that you lost to the competition, trade shows that you attended 3 years ago that nobody ever followed up with people that attended your booth. There are tons and tons of opportunities to engage with leads and people that have some knowledge of your company just buried within your Salesforce or your CRM database. We have a point of view that dark data must be turned into actionable intelligence. Secondly, in addition to dark matter, we also struggle to maximize our efforts in existing marketing lead channels. So we've all seen these. We all know what these are. Marketing provided leads. These are the inbound leads. These are demo requests. These are people filling out form, send me information. I mean, these are great because they often indicate the prospect's direct interest in your company's product or service. Cons, oftentimes they're not decision makers, but people that are kicking tires. And it could be weeks or months between collecting the lead and actually converting it. You could go buy a list. You could go find a partner and say, hey, I'll give you my list if you give me yours. Easy to acquire in bulk. A lot of times cost effective. They're cheap. But the cons are they're cold. The prospect doesn't know who you are, so your conversion rates are going to be much lower than something like a marketing provided or an inbound lead. The third thing you have is social selling and the leveraging sales intelligence tools, things like Inside View. The Pro enables the salespeople to self-sort leads, gives them access to decision makers, gives them intelligence about what to say to a decision maker to increase the likelihood of converting that into an opportunity and a customer. The cons are it's time consuming, and you're starting to see some of these channels turn themselves off. I'll take a minute for a little anecdote. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, no surprise. And I've had reps reach out to me and tried me, write really, really purposeful and thoughtful LinkedIn email messages. I've then had them ping me on social networks like Twitter, then follow me in email. But you know what? Nobody ever picked up the phone and gave me a call, right? So these channels all work in conjunction with one another, not as independent entities. And lastly, blind canvassing. Enable salespeople to self-sort leads. I'm in my territory. I've got some time. I'm going to go knock on some people's doors. Believe it or not, that's the way that a lot of sales organizations out there in the world today operate. The cons are it's inefficient, time-consuming, and costly. Literally, a salesperson's time is one of your number one costs that you have as a sales organization. And if they're not effectively using their time, you guys are going to be in trouble. So what we have are some truisms. So what do we believe? Here at Map Anything, we believe lead management truism number one is that better lead management does not lie in the quantity of leads, but rather the salespeople's ability to take action upon them. InsideSales.com actually tells us that a key driver of lead conversion lies in the time it takes to contact a lead. Should you wait 5 minutes? Should you wait a day? Should you wait a week? Ultimately, what we've seen over time is that quicker lead follow-up actually results in higher lead conversion, right? Reps that follow up more quickly get more leads converted over time. It's just the truth. But what happens if I have more leads than a rep could possibly contact in a timely window? Believe it or not, having too many leads is a problem a lot of marketers today deal with. There's a handful of applications and processing, things like automated dialers, things like predictive analytics to help reps focus on the highest likely targets. But we also think another way to accomplish lead prioritization is to Yelpify your sales process. So everybody's seen these applications online. There's things like Yelp, there's Google. I'm in an area, show me the best restaurant. I want Thai food that is, moderately priced and has good reviews and has really good pad Thai, right? That's the benefit of consumer-facing apps with smartphones today have given us. So we really feel like leveraging dark matter within your existing CRM database or your Salesforce.com instance is really Yelpifying your sales process. Using map-based visualization to actually take a row of data or a queue of leads and organize a sales rep's day around a geo-based approach. Find old leads near existing clients to maximize a sales rep's time. Leverage prioritization from companies like InsideSales.com to further filter down your approach. Only show me highly scored leads. Only show me leads that have filled on a form in the last 5 to 10 hours. How many of us filter consumer mapping apps, things like Yelp, by rating and by price? Why wouldn't you do the same with your leads? So once we learn how to better prioritize what we have, and we find efficiencies in our process through geo-based lead management, we still need help. That leads us to lead management truism number 2. World-class marketing orgs will never source 100% of a sales pipeline. It just won't happen. We've seen best-in-class sales organizations at B2B SaaS maybe get 50 to 55% inbound. It's just not going to happen that a marketing organization is going to 100% provide leads to their sales organization. So reps that self-source leads will outperform their peers consistently. There was actually research back in about 2011, 2012 from the Corporate Executive Board, or CEB, the publishers of the Challenger sale, that actually showed that people that did social research and reached out via social networks to self-source leads actually had a higher incidence and high performance than those that did not. So there's actual research to back up my claim here. But what happens when you move into a new territory and you have a minimal LinkedIn network? Or you don't understand the general market dynamics because you've been assigned a new territory that's in Houston, Texas, it's oil and gas, and you've only ever sold high tech before. How do we enable salespeople to succeed there? Here at Map Anything, we're a good example. We have a constant flux in sales territories as we grow. New week, 3 new reps. Where do we put them? How do we best deploy our resources? And how do they ultimately get into their territories and be successful and generate revenue and be successful sales individuals? And we think here is how we Pokemon Go your territory. So everybody on the phone that has children is familiar with Pokemon Go. Some people that are 40 plus probably play it. It's okay. We play it here at Map Anything a lot. But that's basically leveraging a geo-based approach to go hunting for Pokemon. And when we're hunting for Pokemon as sales reps, we're hunting for new business. We're hunting for the highest likely prospects in our given territory to go have meetings with, generate that new pipeline, and close business. So this is what we actually call location-based lead gen. Very much like Pokemon Go, sales reps, in this case especially field reps, are consistently on the hunt. You may have a Pokestop, which in the game is a place where you go gather information. For a field sales rep, that could be a local chamber of commerce event, an industry mixer, or some other type of networking. How many of your sales reps have been traveling in a territory and either A, had a big gap between meetings? You had an 8 a.m. and you had a 4 p.m. What are you going to do in the middle of the day? Go see a movie? I hope not. Find a new meeting? Find 3 or 4 people to make sales calls into? That's an effective use of time. Or B, you're dealing with a last minute cancellation. I've traveled from Houston all the way to North Carolina. I've got a big meeting for 2 hours with a global CIO, and at the last minute they cancel. What am I going to do with my time? Am I going to go home? Am I going to go hotel? No. I'm going to leverage location-based lead gen, find some people to call, make the best use of my T&E expense, and actually help myself be successful. We actually also see location-based lead gen helping marketing departments better plan and optimize field events. Traveling to a trade show, having an exec dinner, things that you're looking around a geographic area, how do you determine who to invite? So I'm traveling into a territory, I'm having an event, I want to have C-level people attend. As a marketing department, how do I determine who do I invite? Leveraging location-based lead gen is a great way to better visualize the market dynamics to find the right people to invite. And as a sales rep who wants to own lead gen, no more waiting on new leads. So what are some key takeaways? We talked about the issues, sales reps needing to find new leads. We talked about some of the problems with traditional methods of gathering leads. What are the pros, what are the cons? And then we talked about map-based prospecting, which is what we think is a new and interesting way to help salespeople be more effective at their jobs. So what are the key takeaways? Number 1, leverage analytics and automation to capitalize on the existing leads you have. You have this dark matter. You've got leads that are neglected in your CRM database. Leverage analytics to prioritize which one of those have the highest likelihood of converting, put them on a map, give them a call. Number 2, understand that every rep needs to self-source pipeline. Make sure every rep has a plan. They understand the dynamics not only of your product and your value and the industries that you serve, but geographically in their territory understands how to make that applicable. I use the example again. I'm a phone-based sales rep in North Carolina assigned to the San Francisco Bay Area. I have a great year. I get my territory expanded, and now I have this area of the world called TOLA, Texas and Louisiana. How am I going to be effective in that territory? I need to be able to visualize who is in that territory, when's the last time they've been contacted, what are the market dynamics, what's the territory potential, and really get myself up to speed on that on the industry verticals that exist within that. A map is a great way to do that. And that's why we think number 3, using a map-based approach is a game changer. It's a great way to, number 1, help sales reps visualize and understand the existing dark matter that exists, all of those untouched leads, those neglected leads, those closed lost opportunities. But secondarily, to leverage things that don't exist in Salesforce. You know, I'm in a territory. I'm making some sales calls. I don't have every potential business that we could be selling to in my CRM or my Salesforce database. So how can I actually visualize every business that exists around me, prioritize them by industry, by size of business, use a map-based lead gen approach, and actually go get new pipeline? So I welcome everybody to reach out to me. My email is included here, as well as my Twitter handle. Find me on LinkedIn, find me on social media. Be love to have a conversation about how
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session. This is Gabe Larson. I'm talking about something interesting today, unlike maybe other times. Today, we're talking about inside sales top challenges. We're going to be diving into tools and technology based on some research that we've done in conjunction with some others around what is broken or not working in the inside sales industry. Now, brief introduction on myself. Again, Gabe Larson here. I run what we call the Inside Sales Labs, cooking up some cool best practices and some research to be able to share to the market. I will be offended if you do not add me on LinkedIn and Twitter. And please, please, please check out our Sales Acceleration podcast on iTunes. Every week we do a couple episodes with some industry thought leaders, talk real problems, real people, real solutions. Definitely take some time to check it out. So let's get into the top. It was posed to me, why are tools and technology a top challenge? I actually think it's a pretty easy answer. If you check out this slide, you will see this is from VB Profiles, and it talks a little bit about the inside sales landscape, but oh my goodness, look at this. Where do I even start? Look at all of these different vendors, all of the different options, all of the overlap that companies have with each other. I mean, it is mind-boggling the amount of competition, the amount of vendors in the inside sales space, and my goodness, most of them are just point solutions. So one does an email, one does text, one does opportunities, one does leads, one does. It is mind-boggling. So I'm not surprised that a lot of us are having issues with tools and technology. Here's a couple stats to back that up. So interestingly, this was something that founder and president Ken Krogan in conversations with CSO Insights in their study put down. CRM usage is going down for the first time in 15 years. This was a pretty big surprise in the latest study that CSO Insights put out there. But if you think about it, it's not too surprising. As you watch reps, you'll find very often that it is difficult to, utilize a CRM and get everything updated so that it can be as effective as possible, because unless it's in there, you can't utilize it and run reports off it. So implicit says that the average rep spends about 4 hours a week updating Salesforce just to make sure their accounts and opportunities are all in place. Again, not necessarily a bad thing. It's just what we've become accustomed to in order to operationalize our sales process. Now, I was in, where was it? It was in Seattle. This is just a couple months ago, and I sit down with the sales leader. We're kind of shooting the bull back and forth about what's going on in their business, and he literally says this to me. I put this quote up there. He says, "I have 17 sales acceleration vendors who offer me point solutions that don't talk to each other, and it's wasting me and my reps' time." And I think this is becoming, again, the problem. I just wanted to blow this up as much as possible. There's so many tools. People are buying a lot of them. There's all this overlap. None of them talk to each other. This guy, this sales leader said, "Gabe, you wouldn't believe what it's like getting 17 different phone calls every quarter wanting to do a quarterly business review on how the texting solution is changing my team's world." So it is getting overwhelming, confusing, and we've got to figure out a solution on how to solve it. So today I want to dive into what we believe qualitatively a lot of people are experiencing or were experiencing as they mentioned or filled out the survey that said tools and technology are a problem. Here's why and how we can fix it. So we've put a 3-step process down here. The first step is understanding your personas. The second step is mapping your sales process. And then number 3 is manage change. So I'm going to dive into each of these for just a minute. And the first one is understanding your personas. Now this is another one, you guys, where, sorry, I must be in a good mood this morning, but I used to actually keep track of this. I've spent a lot of time on the road visiting literally hundreds of companies, looking at different inside sales departments, and everybody has their own name for different roles. And so, again, I used to keep track and try to get a list of names, but I got lost at some point. But you have SDRs and AEs and ADMs and SGCs and VSRs and CSRs and BDRs and BDSs and ISRs and BD. It gets another thing. It gets kind of confusing. It's not a problem, but you've got to be able to recognize what you have and what you don't have. And so, in my opinion, in my belief, I believe that there are some super personas, and it'll help you simplify kind of where you are. And as you think about your technology stack, you've got to start thinking about persona-based technology stacks. It just gets too confusing otherwise. So what I've done here is I've just rolled up all these funky names into 3 super personas or 3 super roles. So you've got your sales development rep. You've got your account executive. That's your closer, the person who actually closed the deal. And then you've got that customer success rep. Now, again, there's a management and et cetera, but I was focusing on the roles that are actually revenue generating. If you can start to figure this out, and there are some intricacies, and I do want to touch on just a couple of those. Oftentimes what you'll find is with these roles, there's a couple key attributes to be aware of. And one is transactional or high velocity versus relational or account-based. And then oftentimes there's an inbound and outbound component, or a new business versus existing business component. Those are really key attributes as you think about your technology stack. But if you can get to a place where you can identify those personas and really understand, okay, I mean, we call it, an ADR, but what that is a account-based sales development rep. Then you can start to splice out or splinter out and say, okay, for this particular group, what is the technology set that's needed? And I've went ahead and thrown down on this slide an option to say, okay, per persona, what is the typical, and I didn't give you vendors. I'm going to let you figure that one out. That's a exercise in of itself, but I do think first and foremost, understanding the key concepts that each persona needs will really get you from first base to second base. Let me just give you a quick example here on sales development. Now, most people start their sales stack with sales development. Why is that? Because that's typically a team that can be a little bit more automated. It's a team that can be a little more process or systems driven, and they usually start with communication. That's where our studies have indicated most companies start there. But some of the key areas that you need to be looking for around sales development is prioritization. How do they prioritize their activities, their leads, their prospects, their contacts? Intelligence. You do not, believe me, I repeat, do not want them going around the internet and trying to find relevant information on Wikipedia and you know, their company website and social sites. You've got to find a way to bring that into one piece if you can. Communication tools, an obvious one: phone, email, voicemail, social tools. How do you keep them motivated, and then how do you actually qualify and pass? A calendaring tool or a qualification tool. That would be a solid stack for a sales development rep. Again, prioritization, identifying target accounts, getting the right contacts in there, intelligence, making sure you get the right information, communication, motivation, and qualification. So think about each of those personas, and it's really going to put you in a different place as you think about optimizing your technology stack. Now, step 2 here is mapping your sales process, and I got to admit, I'm a little bit of a junkie when it comes to this concept. I actually just reached a milestone in my career. I've now mapped over 200 processes. And you're looking here at my 200th one. I even got a picture with it. That's maybe a little embarrassing, but I collect them. I challenge you to send your process map to me. I probably get one a month from someone on LinkedIn who wants me to review it with them, and I love it. I collect them. You know, grab me on LinkedIn, send me your process map, and I will take the time to give you my feedback. I have seen inbound, outbound, you know, expansion, strategic sales, high velocity sales. I've seen it all, and I love to look at it. So I'm a big proponent of trying to do that. The problem is this is a quote by the famous person, says everybody here. I've never mapped out my sales process beginning to end. So true. That is so true. I mean, look, I've done this 200 times. I have probably come across literally a handful of companies that could show me a detailed process map. Now, sometimes you'll get someone with 3 boxes, and that's not quite what I'm talking about. I am talking about something a little more granular. But you've got to get that exercise down, and you've got to start doing it. How do you do? I'll give you my quick overview. I typically try to break a sales process into 3 simple phases because, again, I'm not a Six Sigma black belt. I love process. I can't think if I can't visualize it, but make it simple. Don't worry about all the shapes and names and squares and triangles and whatever those other shapes are. Just make it simple. How do you get stuff? What do you do with that stuff? And then phase 3, how do you kind of bring that stuff to a close and get a little more detailed in these 3 phases? And I think you're way further than most companies are. So I'm a big proponent of creating a current state, and this is just a sample. And it follows that same concept there on the left. Where am I getting my leads? How am I, or my contacts, how am I interacting with the contacts in the middle? And then how am I bringing those contacts to qualification and working them down some sort of pipeline? Man, when you get to this spot, it is a gold mine. It's a game changer. You're here, and you all of a sudden are visualizing your sales system, and like I've seen hundreds of times, you will notice things in here like, oh man, it looks like the rep is spending, I was at a client yesterday, 60% of their time researching. Interesting. That's probably not okay. Oh, interesting. They're having a really hard time following up, managing their follow-up. Okay, that's an interesting one. You start to identify these different strengths and weaknesses, and then, and only then, are you ready to move to a future state and start putting in different technology applications to potentially solve some of those weaknesses? And you're seeing that here in this sample future state. All those green boxes are tools or technologies that can be plugged in to solve process efficiencies. And sometimes, I'm not a true salesperson in the sense that I spend all my time selling. We're all salespeople when it comes down to it. But I'll get on the phone a lot with our day-to-day salespeople, and I'll throw this concept out. Sometimes I get, kind of not yelled at, but people get a little angry with me after those calls, because I'll say to prospects, you can't just go and buy technology. You've got to show me a process map with your strengths and weaknesses, and then we can talk about what technologies can fill those weaknesses. And so I am a big proponent of that. And to do it, again, I keep it super simple. Know those functional areas. Those are your personas. Are we talking about marketing and sales development and inside sales and outside sales and in customer success? So you need to kind of know the overall structure of your department. Get that basic current state or as is. Find the strengths and weaknesses. Don't make it too complicated. Use triangles, use squares. I don't really care. Use free software. Use paid software. Use PowerPoint. A lot of people don't like it because I'm just stuck with PowerPoint. I'm a big proponent of Lucid Charts. I love those guys, but oftentimes I'll just do it in PowerPoint. It's simple. I don't need to make it crazy complicated. It gets the job done. Everyone can update it and use it themselves. Then you've got to get to that place of future state. And then lastly, if you're serious about this exercise, you do have to get to a place where you have a governance structure to manage that process, where you're reviewing it once a quarter to make sure you're not new inefficiencies haven't popped up, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure you get that process down, then identify your technology stack. And I really think it'll become more clear to you as to which tools and vendors you need versus just randomly kind of buying the shiniest object that comes your way. Now, lastly, I'll just throw out this one point. Actually, on change management, this is a quote I often hear. I bought a phone dialer and my reps are not making more calls. Maybe not says everybody who's ever purchased a phone dialer, but my goodness, it happens very frequently. I get a lot of sales leaders say, I bought this tool and my team is not utilizing it as effective as I thought they would. I bought a scoring tool. In fact, this one happens all the time. They spend all this money on a predictive lead scoring application or predictive account scoring application, and then you sit down with the reps and you ask them, hey, what do you think of that score? Oh, that dumb score. I don't follow that. I follow my gut. Management says it's helpful, but I don't even look at it. So they end up not using a lot of these expensive tools and technologies. So how can you make sure that they do that? And you've got to find a balance here in the sales acceleration space. I don't think you want, it's not ERP. It shouldn't be a full IT staff with, a 12-month implementation plan. And there's got to be a balance, but you're kidding yourself if you think you can just throw the tools to a team, especially a sales team. We're all salespeople, and expect them to just go crazy and adopt it. Salespeople are notoriously cowboys. They like to work in the Wild West. They like to shoot from the hip, use their secret sauce, which is kind of subjective Hail Mary play that miraculously works at times, but most times it doesn't. So you've got to find the balance of change management and give them tools that certainly they want to use and allow them to be somewhat autonomous but also productive. You got to find a way to build around that some training and some governance. And so any project that I'm on, I'm a big believer, double big here, on a governance structure that says, hey, let's not just throw this technology out to the team. Let's get a steering committee. Let's get a success metrics, success criteria, a strategic vision of what we're trying to do with this technology. Let's get an operations committee that's actually tactically going to be involved in the day-to-day to make sure not only the tools get up, we get the reps behind it, and we get excited about the program that's coming down the pipeline. And then this concept of a speed team is just a no-brainer. Again, I don't believe in just rolling out on one day to all 500 sales reps. I do believe, get the technology for all 500 people. That's a great bundled approach. But then start with a persona and say, okay, let's start with our account executive team. Let's just take 10 people from that account executive team. Let's get them on the system. Let's iterate. Let's get them feeling comfortable with what they have. And then once we see that that motion is optimized, let's go ahead and roll that out to the rest of that persona. Now let's take another persona and let's do the same motion. And so using this type of structure just puts that cherry on top of making sure that your sales stack actually does become optimized and doesn't sit stale like an old system on the shelf there. So in closing, again, those 3 steps, I'm a firm believer this is a great way to help you optimize your sales stack, understanding those personas, not just assuming that all people are the same. Number 2, really understanding that process map, strengths and weaknesses. And then lastly, don't assume you can just throw technologies to salespeople and have them automatically adopt and automatically use all the best practices. You're probably going to have to find that balance and do some training. And I'm not just talking about how to use the technology. I'm talking about some best practices around it. Make sure that they're using it as appropriate as possible. So really appreciate you taking the time to listen today. I've got to make one plug. Always talking about the latest and greatest on our Sales Acceleration podcast, myself and Steve Ayer. Check us out at InsideSales.com resources/podcast. We're on iTunes, twice a week episodes talking about again, real problems, real people, real solutions. So have a fantastic day, and thanks so much for listening in.
Hello, and thank you for joining me. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about sales team motivation. It's a very interesting topic that comes up regularly among a lot of our clients here at Exactly Corporation. And I speak to the VPs of sales and chief revenue officers from across the globe. And an ongoing challenge they have is they know they've got some rock stars up at the top of the organization, but they're not sure if they're getting full value out of every member of the sales team, and they don't know how they can get their attention, get them moving, getting higher quota attainment, and getting more out of them. So I wanted to share a few ideas on this, a few ways you can measure it, a few ways you can analyze it, and even a few tricks you could try and get just that extra 5% out of your sales team. A lot of the work that I'm going to be talking about comes from Exactly's work as a corporation over the last 11 and a half or so years. We've been able to slowly build up an amazing client base of organizations that we can then go back to, pull their data, pull their behaviors, and use that to build out a complete picture. The idea of this from Exactly is going into over 870 companies and finding out what worked and what didn't work in any given incentive plan, looking at sales team performance over time, looking at sales team performance based in different industries, and any other possible permutation of the data set so that we can then turn around and share that information with our client base. Exactly is a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange. You can see us at XTLY if you want to learn more. So what's my goal? The goal of any organization, how can we improve sales results and employee performance through incentives? That's what Exactly provides. We are a sales compensation management software provider in the sales performance management space. So we have always looked at how incentives can drive performance. But even when you think you've launched and released the greatest compensation plan, suddenly you have motivation issues. You're looking around and you see that you've still got reps sitting at their desk, they're reading the paper, they're checking this time of year fantasy football scores, and they don't seem to be that eager to go out and close the next deal. And you're thinking, well, I've built a compensation plan. Why isn't my team more engaged? Guess what? You're not alone. Gallup Corporation does an annual global survey of the workplace, and they constantly find that there are problems of employee engagement. So, in the most recent one that I was looking at, only 13% of employees across the whole corporation were truly engaged. 63% were pretty much just taking up space, and 24% are actively disengaged. This means they are looking for work. They are doing whatever they can, as the classic line from Office Space says, do just enough not to get fired. That's what you need to worry about. This is the challenge that all organizations are facing. So we build out an incentive plan, right? Again, this shouldn't be a problem with sales. Sales is the one group that has a very specific task. They have a quota. They have a compensation plan that pays them for achieving or hopefully overachieving that quota. Why is it that the incentive plan doesn't work to drive that engagement? Why isn't the incentive plan failing to motivate your sales team? Well, first problem, a lot of people have a bad habit of overcomplicating the compensation plan. You know, when you first build out the plan, you just build out a comp plan that pays you to bring in deals. So it's revenue based. Well, then someone says, we want revenue, but we also want some net new customers instead of just, upselling to our existing customers. They add a second measure for net new customers. Then someone notices there's a problem with churn. We're selling to people that leave. So we add a retention side of that. Oh, then the CFO comes in and says, revenue's great, but if we don't get our profits under control, we're going to have problems. So you add a margin measure to the compensation plan. Then the product team shows up and they've got a new product that they want to cross-sell across everybody. So suddenly we add another measure for upselling or cross-selling a new product. Well, we looked at the data and we found that whenever you go beyond 3 measures in an incentive plan, overall performance drops. You start losing the motivation to hit everything because it's confusing. It's hard to chase every single one of the targets. It's hard to focus on any one thing or 2 things. And it basically changes the entire flavor of the organization, and you stop getting the motivational factors you need. Now, what's the follow-on to that? This comes from this question of team selling that's been going on for a long time. In any given organization, it takes a lot of people to sell. And the same side, on the buyer side, we're seeing 5 to 6 people involved in any purchase decision. On the selling side, we have seen 25% of Xactly's customers pay 20 or more people on a single deal. Now, you might ask, how can that happen? Well, think about it. If you have your account manager closing the deal, and then their manager gets credit for that, and the manager's director gets credit for that, and the vice president gets credit for that, well, I'm at 4 right now. But then maybe you have sales engineers or solutions consultants. So the sales engineer assigned to the deal got credit along with their manager, their director, and their VP. Well, now we're at 8. And I haven't even touched into maybe somebody from a business development, lead generation team getting credit, perhaps even somebody who works trade shows and events getting credit, business development and partner marketing getting credit. And all of a sudden, you've got a ton of people getting paid. Now, how does this reduce motivation? Well, typically because the CFO is putting a cap on what percentage of revenue is going to get paid out, which means the more people you pay, you have to spread the peanut butter even thinner. The less money involved in the deal, the less value the sales team sees to it. Again, you reduce the motivation. After that, what do we see? Playing favorites. Now, I can talk about playing favorites and how territories are built, playing favorites on how quotas are negotiated, playing favorites based on some people have a higher salary than others, and it's just on their negotiation skills, which arguably is something important to a sales rep. But we were looking at gender pay issues in the marketplace, and one of the things we discovered was that women actually have a higher quota attainment than men. We found the average quota attainment by women was 70%, whereas the average quota attainment by men was 67%. Now, you would think that that higher quota attainment would translate itself to a higher average total compensation. Unfortunately, you would be wrong. What we found is the women's average total compensation was only 83% of the men. Someone's playing favorites with the comp plan. So that your top performers are not getting paid the same as mid-tier performers. That's a demotivator. That's telling somebody not to try as hard going into the future. So what do we end up with when we start putting all these demotivating factors into the comp plan? You get what we call the frozen middle. If you've got a normal curve of sales reps and some are in that A column, which means they're poor performers, maybe they're new or maybe they're somebody you need to push out. And then you've got your top performers over there in the C column, which we want to retain. Those are our rock star reps, the ones we can always count on to bring in business. And then we have the frozen middle. And how do we get the frozen middle to improve? We want to shift their curve. So like I said, column A, we need to fix or get rid of them. Column B, we want to shift them to the right. And column C, we want to retain. So let's take it to that next step. Now let's try to motivate these reps to get a little bit more out of them. I started this conversation by discussing the fact that Exactly Corporation is involved in incentive compensation management solutions. So guess what? I'm a firm believer that incentives do work. These are 3 academic research articles that looked at how did incentive plans drive performance. Locke did some work on it where across a series of studies, he found that incentives drove a 30% productivity increase. Strachkovic and Luthans found a 17%. And Condley looked at 64 different studies and found incentives drove a 22% increase in performance. I put this up here just as a reminder. At the end of the day, the incentives do work, but how you manage the incentives is going to give you this variation in payouts. So first thing you need with a good incentive plan, you need continuous communication. The reps need a simple dashboard that they can go into, open up their laptop, open up their phone, and where they can get any sort of feedback on how they're doing, any sort of guidance of what they should be doing. They need contests and gamification. This is where leaderboards come into play, so they know where they stand. People respond to, hold it, I'm in 4th place, I want to move up to 3rd place. People respond to contests that say, I want to go, if I close the next 5 deals faster this month, I've got a chance to say go have a weekend retreat with my significant other, or I might get a bottle of scotch, or I might get double club credit if I'm going to do sales club next year. So this continuous communication of how they're doing and where they fall is going to have an impact on you. So you cannot leave them out of it. Reps can't just assume that when they get their paycheck, that's going to be the incentive. You have to tell them they earn the incentive long before it shows up with after-tax dollars in their wallet. Also, remember when I talked about overcrediting? Focus on those who have line of sight. By line of sight, I mean these are the people that actually made the deal happen. The more you spread this out, the less incentive there is. If you give a commission or a bonus check to somebody who had really no impact on closing the deal, it doesn't drive their behavior and it dilutes the value of the incentives you give to others. We found the most successful mixes are the account executive and a solutions sales consultant, sales engineer, their managers, and a sales executive. Once you get beyond that, you're paying people that really didn't close the deal. So fix that. Check that number. After that, give the reps information wherever they go. The Aberdeen Group did some research where they found that companies who use mobile as part of their incentive compensation management solution get a 4% annual improvement in sales time to productivity. That means reps get up to speed faster, they take on the new comp plan faster, they make more money. In addition, if you can automate your incentive compensation solution, that is, don't run it off of spreadsheets and have a 4 to 6 week minimum delay from activity to payment, you can actually get more reps making quota and your sales cycles are shorter. This is back to this line of sight conversation that I was having before. What you want to do is pay reps early, pay reps often. You want to pay them as close as possible to when they close the deal so that they'll go out and close another deal. So how do you know where to focus? How do you know what you can be fixing at your organization? Well, this is where you get the 2 B's, baselines and benchmarks. Baseline, you need to know where you are right now. You need to know where your company has been historically. Benchmarks, you need to know how that compares to peer companies. So let's talk about that a little bit. First, ask yourself these questions, and you should be asking yourself these questions every single quarter, not just in every 2 to 3 year reevaluation of your team. Are you getting the right type of talent? Every time somebody leaves, Was it a loss you're happy with, or is it a loss that's going to hurt you? Okay. When you post a position, what kind of resumes flood into your inbox? What kind of people are checking out your LinkedIn profile to look at the job? Okay. Next, does your pay align with the business goals? And this might seem like a silly question, but remember when I was talking about, do you pay on revenue, pay on deals, or pay on margin? What is your company's business goal? Is it to grow top line? Is it to get more profitable? Or is it to grab market share? Those are three different measures. Whichever one of those is the primary in your organization should be the primary in the sales rep's compensation plan. What does it cost you to hit quota? And by that, I mean, what does it cost you to bring in a rep, train a rep, give them a desk, and then get them all the way to quota? What's it cost you in incentives? What does it cost you in other measures? What percentage of your reps are even making quota? And if you use spiffs, do they work? I think one of the best ways to waste money with a spiff is to launch it, celebrate it, but never look to see if it actually drove more business. I've seen plenty of spiffs, especially like when it's an add-on product spiff, where companies ran a spiff and they turned around and they never even looked to see if they sold more of that product than the same prior period. You can't do that. You've got to see if your reps are responding and if it's doing you any good. So when we're setting the baseline, when I'm talking about the historical performance, you want to be able to see what's working and where are you struggling. So you need a variety of ways of looking at this information. A variety of different graphs might be bar charts, column charts, graphs, scatter plots, or just tables of data. The screen I'm showing you here is from Exactly Analytics, which is our own tool that we use, that our clients use for looking at their data. We also let people download this information to Excel so they can manipulate it a little bit more. This gives you your baseline. You want to run it for at least a couple of years if you can, but you should also be looking at it every single quarter to see what's happening to all the movements. Don't just look at closed deals and pipeline. Look at every single factor. The idea is that, with all this data, if your reps are not making quota the way they used to, that identifies a problem. You can see which incentives are actually paying off. Is it the measurement on new clients? Is it the measurement on margin, or is it the measurement on revenue? That'll tell you how they impact things. And even looking to over-under payment, you want to start thinking about, hold it, am I paying in line with the marketplace? Being able to see where you sit with all of these questions is going to make a difference. Now, to do this, you want to benchmark, okay? You want to start comparing yourself to your peers, and you want to see, are you paying market rate? Do your top performers make the right amount of money? Not just on averages. One challenge of a lot of sales compensation survey data is they just give you an average of averages. Each company sends in an average, and then the survey provider averages those averages, and you look at that. That I already talked about too many people in the deal. What is quota performance in your industry at peer companies? Do you have enough leverage? Do your rock stars make enough money if they really knock it out of the park? Please tell me you're not putting a cap in the compensation plan, because you should never do that. And then what's your turnover look like, voluntary and involuntary? So, if you think about it, you should be able to go and select, different peer groups, different types of companies, private versus public, different revenue bands and the like, and compare yourself to them. Make sure you're comparing yourself to the types of companies you lose good reps to, the types of companies you hire good reps from, and the types of companies you want to become, and the types of companies that are nipping at your heels. These are all the types of benchmark analysis programs you should be running to making sure you're staying on top of your sales team. This is where what I want to do is talk a little bit about Exactly Insights and give you an example. We process 8 billion transactions every quarter, and we have collected this data of these quarterly transactions through incentive compensation plans, the $20 billion in incentive payments we've handled in just the last 2 years. We anonymized and aggregated all of that data across 11 years from a cross-section of industries to make it easy for our clients to do this type of benchmarking. So the idea is how do you compare? Because your reps are they're getting pitches from other companies to have them come on board. They want to know, how does the payout curve look at the new company versus where they are? So we want to help make that easy for you. Now, what is that going to look like? Well, here are 3 sample views from Exactly Insights. All right, at the top, I've got my target pay mix. And this just says how much of my pay is base and how much is variable. And I can look at myself versus my peers, okay? And they're at the median in the 75th percentile. It doesn't look too bad. The ratio of base salary to variable incentive is about in line. But if I actually start looking at actual variable earnings per employee, I see a problem because I'm the green bar, okay? And the green bar shows that at the 25th percentile, I pay a lot of money in variable incentives. At the 75th percentile, I pay a lot less than the market. The dark blue bar being the marketplace and the baby blue bar being the entire data set. So I've got two data sets versus myself in green. So I'm overpaying for low performers and I'm underpaying at high performers. That is going to make me keep bad performers and I'm going to start losing my good performers. And if I go further, I can actually see how that is reflected in my quota attainment graph. So the same graph where I'm the green bar and the couple different market cuts are the two different shades of blue. I don't have anybody on the far right-hand side of the quota attainment curve because I don't pay as well at the higher levels of performance. But I've got too many people for what I'm trying to accomplish over there at the 25th percentile, which is probably because, once again, I'm overpaying there. Yeah, there's a few more in the marketplace, but the truth is I've got a problem. I need to fix this. I benchmark myself, and I have a motivational problem. Now, how do I fix this? I'm going to put more juice into my compensation plan for overachievement of quota so that I can get more and more people earning those higher levels of pay that will now be more attractive to them instead of them just deciding, I've hit my numbers, I'm going to coast for the rest of the quarter or the rest of the year. So you want to motivate. First, set some goals and make sure they are measurable. I do not believe in goals that you cannot measure. So this could be, can you onboard new members faster? Okay, how long does it take a rep at your company to get up to speed to actually start producing? Next, let's get everybody on message. You need to have constant training for all of the sales organization. Marketing is spending a lot of money going out. They're buying ads. They're running webinars, they're going to trade shows, and you can do all that, but if you then have a sales rep following up on a lead and the rep's not on message with the tag that pulled that prospect into the pipeline, you're going to get a breakdown in your sales organization. Let's go try to get 5% more out of our middle performers, that frozen middle I showed earlier. Look for that, and you can do that, like I said, with mobile, with automation, and with better incentives. And then retain the top 20%. You can't afford to lose the rock stars. You need to understand and keep an eye on them. So at the same time that we're trying to move more from the middle into the top echelons, we also always want to keep on the top, an eye on the top echelons so that we don't lose them. With Exactly Insights, we've seen some great results. Our clients that use Insights have a 3 to 5% higher quota attainment. They are having great success in leveraging all this information, bringing it in to improve their quota setting, but also to keep an eye on fairness. Remember I talked about fairness and equal opportunity earlier? Other companies are using this, looking at plan complexity and adjusting that. Keep it simple, keep it clean, keep it obvious. We don't want to overcomplicate the system because if not, once again, that's a demotivating factor. So Exactly Corporation, we've been around for over 11 years. We're here to help you with compensation, with benchmarking, with analytics, with coaching, with measuring and quota attainment, and for quota analysis and quota setting, and we'll help you with your MBOs, management by objectives, and the like. If you have any questions, please, you can go to exactlycorp.com. Follow us on Twitter at Exactly. You can follow me at Eric Chaz. Feel free to check me out on LinkedIn. I regularly publish ideas on sales compensation and in that area, and I'm happy to help. Thanks for joining.
Let's begin today's webinar, an introduction to DocuSign for Salesforce. Today's speakers are Andy Zhao, Partner Product Manager at DocuSign. Andy has been with DocuSign for the past 2 years and currently focuses on product management for DocuSign for Salesforce. Prior to this role, Andy was a solutions engineer where he worked closely with customers to find ways DocuSign could be used to solve their business problems. Also joining us today, we have Priya Patel, Partner Marketing Manager at DocuSign. Priya focuses on DocuSign for Salesforce, helping enable customers, partners, and ecosystems to go digital. Thank you both for joining us. Priya, you now have the floor.
Thank you everyone for joining today. In terms of an agenda, I'm going to go through a few slides that show who DocuSign is and how DocuSign for Salesforce can add value to your organization. And then I'm going to hand it off to Andy, who's going to go through a live demo of the product, and then we're going to do Q&A. So to kick off, I just want to spend some time talking about who DocuSign is. You might be familiar with us as an e-signature solution, but what you might not know is that we've been around for over 10 years. DocuSign invented the cloud-based signature, e-signature in 2003, and during this 10-year period, we've been continuously innovating and building a platform. We're global, so people have DocuSigned in over 188 countries, basically everywhere in the world. Our solution is available in 43 languages, and we have offices in San Francisco, Seattle, London, Paris, Sydney, and Sao Paulo. We're also a leader in the space. We have over 100,000 customers, paying customers that are using us, and our network has expanded to 50 million users, and it's growing by 50,000 users per day as people are seeing the value of going digital with their transactions. So I want to spend some time talking about what challenges companies are facing and how DocuSign steps in to bring a great solution to solve this challenge. So companies have invested and spent thousands, if not millions of dollars in these great systems that will streamline their business processes. This is CRM, ERP, HRM, etc. But the challenge is that they need to connect these systems to their internal and external customers in order to be successful. But because of paper-based manual processes, things get lost, and making these connections between these systems and these internal and external customers becomes really difficult. And this is where DocuSign really steps in to make this entire process fully digital and streamline and make sure that companies are really maximizing their investments in these solutions and systems. And I'd like to spend some time talking about what the current sales process might look like if without an e-signature solution like DocuSign. So of course, the sales process touches not only sales, but all of these groups within the organization: operations, finance, customers, and auditors. From a sales perspective, the sales team is currently probably losing valuable time that they could be spending on closing deals with administrative hassles of following up on paperwork and where contracts are in process. From a customer standpoint, they might not always know all the fields that need to be completed. They might return documents with errors and have to go back and complete those documents. From an operations standpoint, the team might be having to manually inspect documents for errors and go back to customers to fully complete documents. And from a finance and IT standpoint, the teams are manually having to kick off sales incentive compensation and invoicing. And then from an auditing perspective, all of your documents might not be stored securely in one place and be easily accessible. And all of this really adds up in terms of hard dollar costs. And this is not only the cost of sending, FedExing documents, faxing documents, printing, it's also employee productivity savings. And we've done third-party studies over here at DocuSign of customers who have been using DocuSign, and the savings have amounted to $28 per transaction. And depending on the size of your organization, this can amount to anywhere from thousands to millions of dollars of savings. So with a streamlined sales process, I won't go through each of these teams again, but basically everything will be fully automated. So your sales team will be able to close deals even faster, focus on what they do best, which is selling. Customers can sign contracts anywhere they might be, anywhere, on any mobile device. The operations and finance processes will all be fully automated, and everything will be stored securely in the event of an audit in the cloud with DocuSign solution. And DocuSign is really an enterprise-wide solution that extends beyond sales. Many of our customers use us in hundreds of use cases. Of course, every department in your organization probably relies on paper-based processes, and this is really where DocuSign can really step in and provide each of these departments with great ROI. Salesforce is an example of a customer of ours that uses us in over 40 use cases internally, including their sales, procurement, legal, facilities, and HR departments. I'd like to spend some time talking about DocuSign and the fact that we are a digital transaction management platform. So beyond just e-signature, DocuSign helps companies streamline their entire workflows from start to finish. So this involves the preparation of documents to the execution of the documents, including authentication, and then the management of those documents securely and in the cloud. And in addition, we have over 100 integrations with partners, solutions, including Salesforce, which is why everyone is here today. And so really, DocuSign is able to provide a solution to integrate into your existing workflows. And DocuSign is the most secure and available platform out there. We have 99.99% uptime, and we have global data centers, so everything is predicated on our DocuSign Trust Foundation. Customers choose DocuSign because it's the easiest to use product. It's the most powerful platform. I mentioned the enterprise-grade, carrier-grade availability. We're the leader in security. We have a very rich partner ecosystem with over 1,000 partners. And we have world-class customer programs and offer great support and professional services support, as well as we have a DocuSign University to really ensure that our customers are successful with their implementations. So what is the value from DocuSign for Salesforce specifically? Well, one, you can close deals even faster. And I'm going to touch upon some customer success stories. This is an example of Salesforce, actually. They were able to reduce the turnaround time of their sales contracts from 14 days, so 2 weeks, to less than a day. You can cut operating costs. I mentioned the $28 average savings that our customers have seen after implementing DocuSign in their sales process. Salesforce themselves saves $19.53 per document with DocuSign. You can increase accuracy, and Andy is going to demo this live so you can see how this works, but essentially data will flow automatically from the document into your Salesforce record, so really reducing the need to go back and correct errors. And you can be mobile. We were one of the first Salesforce partners to roll out on the Salesforce One platform, and we have a great mobile solution. And then you can maximize your CRM investment. And I'll touch upon this in some subsequent slides where we talk about customer success stories. In terms of capabilities, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because Andy will show you this live, but you can, of course, send documents for signature, merge data. That's the automated data flowing from the document into Salesforce. You can create automated workflows, so if you need multiple people to sign the document, you can really set that to what order or parallel orders. And we're Salesforce One ready, and you can get real-time updates via chatter, and we're localized in 11 languages. These are some customers of ours, as you can see, really spanning across industries and across sizes. So customers of any size have seen value from integrating DocuSign into their CRM process. These are some great customer success stories of ours. DuPont, I mentioned maximizing your CRM investment. So they were able to increase the usage of Salesforce in their sales organization by 300% after implementing DocuSign. The members of their sales team really started using DocuSign at the end of their sales process to close deals. And so for the sales team, it really meant getting paid faster. And so that really helped adoption internally. They also reduced their errors by 50%. Salesforce, I touched upon, uses us in multiple use cases across their organization. They're able to now complete 90% of their documents within a day and 71% within an hour. So really great, and this is down from an average of 2 weeks. LinkedIn is an example of a company that saw hard dollar improvements. They were able to improve their annualized working capital by $1 million. This is from reducing the time to invoice to 5 days and cash to 30. So they were essentially able to get paid faster by automating the whole sales process, and they were able to reinvest that money into their growing business. So we actually just launched the new DocuSign for Salesforce experience, version 6.0. It's available now on the App Exchange, and we're really excited about it because it makes DocuSign for Salesforce even faster, easier to use, and more intuitive. So we've made some really great UI enhancements that Andy is going to show you. And for admins that are in the audience, it's now much easier to install and configure your DocuSign account for use within Salesforce. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Andy, who is going to give you a live demo.
Awesome. Thanks, Priya. So Priya brought up a lot of good things. So with DocuSign for Salesforce, there's a lot of good things that you can get from it right out of the box. So having data go back and forth from your Salesforce instance into your documents, having the ability to have complete visibility into that entire process. And then really we have a lot of resources to help anybody get up and running too. So without diving too much into the details, I just want to give you a little bit of background on that first before jumping into the product. So with the demo, there's a couple different scenarios that we'll be walking through. So the first one is going to be just using out-of-the-box components. We'll be looking at how to send a document out, how that whole scenario can be set up. And then the second one, we'll take a look at how it can be in a slightly more advanced screen. And so we'll take a look at what it looks like if you have a custom button. So with a little bit of extra setup, then you'll be able to actually expedite this entire process and take advantage of all those different pretty much statistics that Priya showed earlier. So in terms of increased adoption, faster return on your documents, so on and so forth. Okay, so for the first scenario, let me just check. Yep, we are showing the screen now. Right now, we're just going into any opportunity. So DocuSign for Salesforce works for any opportunity or any object inside Salesforce. So that could be out of the box, what we see up top, or any custom objects that you have too. It works the same. It doesn't matter. We'll work with anything. What we also can do then is also bring in a couple different things. So you'll see the Send with DocuSign button, which we'll be using here. And also a section down below called DocuSign Status. And this allows us to have complete visibility into every single process that you run through DocuSign. And for example, if I'm sending a document out to multiple people, I know exactly where that's sitting at all points, whether it's sitting with the first person, second person, if they've read the document, if they've even opened it and haven't signed it, I can go directly to that person and say, hey, you know, how come you haven't signed this document? Do you have questions? So you can be proactive through that entire process. All right, so here I'm in this opportunity. I'm working with Burlington Textiles Corporation of America, and I'm about to send a document out, and I just want to send out this NDA that is going to be sent to Sam Signer here at the very bottom. So in order to initiate that process, all you need to do then is click Send with DocuSign, as I'll do right here, and that's going to put together an envelope that contains this document. It's going to also pick up that recipient, as you see here, and also allow me to do a little bit of messaging too. But since we have a default message that looks good to me, that's what I'm going to go with. If I want to add additional people in this process, you can certainly bring them in from your contacts, inside Salesforce, leads, users, so on and so forth. If you also have people that you just don't care if they get added to Salesforce, if they exist in there, we can go just do a quick add. So right here I'll add, let's say, Rick Grimes. I'll put in my email for Rick. And once that's all done, I'll go and say, all right, we're just going to give him a copy of this. So I'll say he gets a carbon copy. And I'll save my recipient. And that's all I need to do. Oh, last thing I need to do, I'll make sure that he gets a completed version of that, and I'll just say order number 2. If I want, I can certainly drag and drop and change the order, but Rick Grimes just needs a completed version of this. If we want more documents as well, we can certainly bring them in from Salesforce. You can attach it from your local storage. Lots of different ways to bring that in as well. And once we have this entire workflow here set up, we can go ahead and move to the next spot. And now we can assign where we want each person to interact with this document. So right off the bat, we'll have some information appear. So for example, if you have templates already existing in your DocSign account, that will work exactly the same way here. Now, if I had an NDA set up for this document, then it would see a message that says, hey, we recommend it, or we recognize this document. Would you like to apply a template? The other thing that comes right out of the box here are anchor tags. And you'll notice that we have a couple pages that look like they already have tags. And you can see that by the yellow coloring there. So if we go scroll down a little bit, you'll see, all right, we have anchor tags here too. So if you want to take advantage of anchor tags, you certainly can do so. That's just out of the box. And we'll scroll further down, and you'll see these spots or these different tags automatically populated. If you want to start incorporating information from Salesforce, you can go find a custom tag, and let's say, all right, we want to bring in the billing street for Burlington here. So we can drag that in, just like any other DocSign experience, and you'll see, all right, there is the address right there. Now we have all the things set for this particular document. It looks good. We're ready for Sam to sign. We'll go ahead and click on the Send button here, and we'll click Send. And that's it. Now we've initiated that entire process for Sam to sign that document. And the last part here is we get a quick confirmation letting us know that indeed that's happened. All right, now so that is the first example of sending out a document with DocuSign from Salesforce. Second example, let's go hop over to the second instance here. We have a different opportunity, and this one's going to be a slightly more advanced, where instead of taking the out-of-the-box approach, we've done a little bit of setup already. So this means that we've had someone on our team already create a template. They've already set up a document for this person to sign, and also a custom button too. So for example, if I am a salesperson on this team, all I need to do then is click on this button. I don't have to set up any contacts, add in any documents as we just saw earlier. I don't have to do any dragging and dropping. And all I need to do then, as a person in your sales organization, all I have to do is click on Order Review, and we're going to do all those steps for you. So everything, all those little time-staking steps can be bypassed and done with just a single button too. And that's all completely customizable from your side. So whether or not you want to take the out-of-the-box approach, enable all these customizations, or you can lock it down directly as we're about to see here too. So lots of different options. Okay, now that we've clicked this button and the screen's loaded, you'll notice that our document now has been completely loaded with all the information from this particular opportunity. So slightly different, we're using advanced interconnections, and you'll see that company's information has been loaded here. So the address, the billing street, the shipping street, the product information, what they're selecting, and then also, of course, the signature line. And since everything looks good, let's go ahead and send this off, and let's go ahead and sign it and see some of this in action. If you do, one more thing on the side is if you do have any questions, please feel free to just type them into the Q&A, and we'll be able to get through as many as we can after this. Okay, now that the document's been sent, we see a quick confirmation again, and let's go ahead and hop over to the email for Sam Signer. So let me refresh this, give it a couple seconds for that to load. All right, and there it is. So let's go ahead and see the one that we just sent out. All right, so this is the one that we just sent out for advanced interconnections. You'll see that we can set up some customized branding. This is just like any other DocSign account. So that is completely customizable from your side. And just like any other DocSign experience, you can say view document. That'll open up another browser, and that person can start interacting with your document. Go ahead and agree to do these terms, continue. And now if I review this document, I see all the information that's been set up for me. I can see there's one field for me to edit. And so let's just say we'll put in a purchase number. We'll put in PO 2003. We can change data here. Let's say we want to change the shipping method. We don't want to go by slow, but we'll make it quick through air. And last thing, we'll just go ahead and sign. So we'll go ahead and select our signature, adopt it. And that's it. That's all I have to do as a recipient here. And what's going to be very powerful here is with all this data that came over to this document, I have now the ability to push this information back into Salesforce too. So you have this bi-directional data flow. So I'll go ahead and click finish, and we'll actually see what I'm talking about here. All right, so now it's done signing, and that's it. Now back into Salesforce, let me just go back into our other screen here. Let me return to this opportunity. And if we gave it a couple seconds, let's give it a little bit longer. Let me see here. And, oh, actually I'm on the wrong one. So let's see. Let me return. Sorry, multiple screens here. So let's go back to Advanced Interconnections. All right, there we go. So all this information is back. You'll see that the shipping method has been switched. You'll see the purchase order number has been populated. And if we go all the way down here to the DocSign status section, we can see that this envelope has been completed as well. If we open that up, you'll see that all that information through this process has been tracked. So if we go here, you'll see that we got sent this envelope at this point. We actually opened this envelope at this point, and then also finally signed at the very end here. Another thing is when your documents are completed, those documents can be stored right back into Salesforce too. So right back on the object, it can be stored inside notes and attachments here. And you can also see the certificate too. So if you do want your certificate of completion or that audit trail to be stored, you can certainly include that as part of this process. And lastly, since we've already talked a little bit about the automation from the sending perspective, we also play very well with triggers and workflows inside Salesforce too. And so if you do want to automatically, let's just change the status to closed won because someone signed a document, you can certainly enable that too, as we see here. So I've set this up with a trigger so that once a document has been completed, this stage automatically changes to closed won. So I don't have to have my salesperson go in there manually, painstakingly change all these settings manually. So it's completely customizable again. And that's pretty much the entire process in a nutshell. So if there's any questions, I'll go ahead and kick it back over to Alyssa here and see if there's anything we can answer and help out.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. And it looks like we do have a couple questions. Here's one. Are you able to define the editable fields in the sent document?
Are you able to define or edit? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I'll read it one more time. Are you able to define the editable fields in the sent document? So that we may want to follow up with that one after the webinar.
Yes, so I think they're asking, are you able to define which fields can be edited by this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when you are sending out a document, you have full-on control to what you want people to interact with. So whether or not it's like that price book or the products that we listed on the document earlier where you want that locked down, you can also have other fields like the purchase order field where we had it was optional where someone can edit that. There's also other things where you can control whether or not that data even flows back into Salesforce too. So in this case, we had that purchase order number go back into Salesforce. Well, sometimes you don't want that information be changed on Salesforce, but maybe on the document. And you can set it up that way too. So in a nutshell, yes, you can customize everything, and you do have the option to set it how you want that to be.
Great. Here's another question. How do I know the person signing the document is actually the person signing?
Yeah, great question. We get that all the time, believe it or not. We do have a lot of different ways to control that. And so, for example, if you think about a regular paper transaction, if someone takes that document, you send them an email or you send them an actual document to another room, you don't necessarily have the guarantee that they signed it. All you have is just a scribble on a piece of paper. Well, if you're in the digital world with DocuSign, you have lots of other mechanisms that can be set in place to ensure that that person is indeed who they are. And so what we just saw earlier was a very simple version of that. We sent an email, and that person, our recipient, Sam Signer here, was required to sign into that email, put in a password, and that validates who they are. That's the first step of authentication, so to speak. There's other things that are on top of that, so we also have an audit trail through that process, logging in the timestamps, the IP addresses. If they're sharing the location, we'll certainly get that too. And if you do want to get even more stringent into those security measures, you can set up access codes, you can have phone authentication, SMS, pretty much so many other options to make sure that person is indeed who they are, and all these different hurdles that they have to get past in order to make sure that that is that person.
Great. Here's another question. Does DocuSign store my documents?
Yes, we do store your documents. And again, I guess just hammering home that idea of configurability and options, it's something that comes out of the box. We'll automatically store the documents for you in DocuSign. That's free, and that's just part of any DocuSign account that you open up with us. But at the same time, we do recognize that there are customers who have their own storage policy, so we don't have a storage policy, so to speak. Our storage policy is what yours is. And so, for example, if you want those documents to be purged out of DocuSign, we'll certainly be more than happy to accommodate that too.
Great. Here's another question. Can you send documents from a mobile device?
Yes, you are absolutely able to send documents from a mobile device. We do have native apps on iOS, Android, and Windows. And so from those native apps, you're able to send documents out. As well as if you are using Salesforce One, DocuSign does have an integration with that as well. So if you do a lot of mobile business, you're certainly able to use DocuSign there too.
And it looks like we do have a couple more questions. Can you integrate DocuSign with other systems besides Salesforce?
Yes, great question. We have Open API that allows you to essentially integrate with anything. So Salesforce just happens to be the topic that we're talking about here, but we have plenty of other partners, plenty of other customers that create their own integrations, and those are all definitely very fascinating too. So really opens up what the possibilities are. So whether you have your own storage, as we were talking about a second ago, or you have different data management flows too. So where you want to store your documents can be one place, where you have your data can be another place. Using another document setup tool, there's so many different things that you can do, and we will be able to integrate with those. So both REST and API are supported, or REST and SOAP are supported.
Great, and it looks like we do have time for a few more questions. So let me go with this one. What is the difference between Salesforce and DocuSign?
Good question. So with so first of all, I'll talk about DocuSign. DocuSign, we do digital transaction management, where you're able to manage all your transactions through us. So whether that's getting signatures, approvals, getting data, you can manage that through DocuSign. With Salesforce, though, that allows you to do a lot of data storage, a lot of customer relationship management, as we saw earlier, so their CRM tool. So with these two together, you're able to manage a lot of different interactions with two different ecosystems as one. Essentially having data stored one place and your relationship management stored one place, and then also have DocuSign manage how you get the data, how you interact with them, sending emails, transactions, and whatnot as well. hopefully that answers it a little bit.
Great. Here's another question. Are you able to pull documents from outside of Salesforce? So maybe just documents from outside of Salesforce or other apps in general?
We do have a couple options that are out of the box. So first, of course, you can upload something from your local storage. We do also have integrations or other options that are built into DocSign as well. So for example, if you go to your DocSign account today, you'll see other options like Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, and you're certainly able to bring documents in from those sources. Outside of that, though, that would require some customization. But yes, you are able to have documents from multiple sources.
Great. Here's another question. Does DocuSign allow for batch signature by a single signer on multiple documents?
There are a couple things there, and that it seems like a little bit more of an interesting question. If you're thinking about like a robo-signer, so to speak, so essentially hitting one button and having all these documents signed, we don't have a functionality that does that. Partially, it's because in that sense, then you're not really signing the documents. We encourage people to actually go through the documents, read through the docs, and to ensure that that is part of that process. If there are certain things, then I believe that would be worth another discussion to see exactly what your process is and what sort of problems we can help solve for you.
Great. Here's another question. Can DocuSign be integrated with QuickBooks and Salesforce at the same time?
I'm not too familiar with QuickBooks. I believe you're able to, but yeah, in short, yes, you're able to do that. If they do have an API, the answer is definitely yes.
Great, and it looks like we do have time for one more question. What kind of training do you provide for new customers?
Yeah, we have a lot of training. We have a lot of different places where someone can go in and learn on their own. So this would be something like DocSign University. You can go to our website for that. We have courses, certifications, even for DocSign for Salesforce too. Besides that, we also have plenty of documentation. They can find trainings there. And then also we have professional service that can help onboard as well.
Great, and it looks like we actually have a couple more questions that just came in, so we'll answer these. Can we control the visibility of the signed document Salesforce? Maybe there's sensitive information on the form that we only want certain people to see?
Yeah, so if you're talking about signing documents, within DocuSign, you're able to do that. We have a function called signer visibility. So essentially, if you have multiple parties in, let's say, an envelope and you have 5 documents, and actually, let me see if there's another scenario. All right, off the top of my head, I can't find a specific scenario, but let's just say someone's getting onboarded into a company, and someone puts in their social security number, their banking. Well, not everybody in that process needs to see all those documents. Your manager doesn't need to know your social. He doesn't need to know your bank account numbers, and that's just straight to, let's say, HR. Well, you can set up that document visibility so that certain people only have visibility to certain documents, and you're able to set that within DocuSign.
Excellent, and we might just answer a couple more questions. Can I sign on behalf of different signers? For example, if our company has 2 authorized signers, can I change signers?
Yeah, we have a functionality called AnySigner, and that really allows multiple people to have access to documents. We actually use the same thing for the release management team too. So for example, if we need to go through a certain process to have someone from this team sign a document, all right, we can just send to a certain alias, and someone from that alias can sign off on that. And so there's certain mechanisms that we have available, and namely one would be AnySigner to allow for that sort of process.
Great. Here's another question. Are electronic signatures legally binding on all types of documents?
We hear that all the time. Everybody's smiling in this room too. I'd say the answer is yes. And so, with a lot of these documents, it really comes down to what the company's needs are, and it'd be worth a discussion just to make sure that everything is covered there. But for sure, the answer is that we are able to accommodate for, I'd say, pretty much most of the scenarios for the documents that need to be signed. So, for example, within DocSign, pretty much everything that we do, of course, is done through DocSign as well.
Great. And here's one last question. Is this ever used for medical documentation? Is DocuSign HIPAA compliant for sending patient information if the signer isn't required to actually log in to access the info?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question too, and that's some place that I was working with a good amount when I was still a sales engineer. We are compliant, and we actually, if I remember correctly, have a site that actually goes into more of this information too. So all our compliance information is available on our website. And the other thing here that's very interesting is the part where you don't want to have information appear on a document, we do have the ability to mask out certain fields. So as I was saying earlier, if you have a social security number, you're certainly able to store that in your data systems or that inside Salesforce, what have you. But you can also have that masked when it gets put onto a document, so someone only sees asterisks, X's, so on and so forth. So that masking, that data security is intact.
Fantastic. And unfortunately, that is all the time we have for questions. And I'll see, Priya, did you have anything you wanted to add before we sign off?
Yes, I just want to mention a couple of things. One, we have really robust APIs. A lot of our DocuSign for Salesforce customers use our APIs to integrate DocuSign, Salesforce into whatever existing other systems they might be using, as well as to customize for their needs. So I just want to touch upon that. And then in terms of what's next, you can find us on the App Exchange and get started today with a free trial. It just takes a few minutes to download us on the App Exchange. You can get started with 100 free envelopes or free document sends, no expiration or time limit. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Here's our phone number, or you can email us at dfs@docusign.com. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. I would like to thank Andy Zhao, Priya Patel, and each of you for attending today. We will be sending a follow-up email after this presentation with contact information as well as a link to the recorded webinar. Again, thank you so much for participating, and have a great remainder of the day.
Hi everybody, I'm Blake Ballard, the Senior Manager of Enterprise Account Development, and I'm excited to talk to you about how you can visualize your data better in your sales organization. Before we talk about some of the principles that we use here at Domo, I wanted to talk about a study that Inc. released in one of their recent issues. And they talked about how sales and marketing are starting to use big data and how data is starting to influence not only marketing, but sales organizations as well. A few of the things they noticed is that large enterprises are adopting big data and predictive analytics in sales, that big data insights are also leading to more precise marketing spend. So if you work closely with your marketing department, you're probably realizing that they're getting leads and opportunities for you from various channels. Understanding which channels are performing best is becoming a bigger and bigger deal when it comes to big data. The third thing they noticed is that salespeople will actually adopt data-driven methodologies to better target their high-value prospects. We're seeing this more and more at Domo, where our account executives and our account development representatives are looking for those prospects that can lead to bigger deals and better deals. Sales forecasting accuracy has always been a challenge for sales executives. Big data can help, when used appropriately, improve that dramatically. And last but not least, every sales leader wants to know what's happening real time with their sales, and the best way to do that is to utilize your data best. So with that said, as a foundation for the premise of our conversation today, I want to talk about how we use big data at Domo and how we enable other sales executives and sales organizations to use Domo to meet their big data needs. Before we go there, I want to talk a little bit about the key to big data success. Most of the time when we talk about big data, we're thinking about reports, or we're thinking about a big database full of a lot of different columns and rows. You might be thinking about your Salesforce instance as well, and how convoluted and complicated it is to build the report or get the information you need. But at the heart of big data, we need to simplify what we're actually trying to accomplish, and that's to answer a question. So you may be asking yourself, what is my cost per lead? And you need somebody to run a report on that. Or what email is driving the most engagement so that you can keep sending emails just like that one? Or what deals need the most attention today? Or what's most likely to close this quarter? Or if you're in account development, who do we need to dial and how quickly should we be dialing these people? Well, all of those are really good questions, and one of the things that I've noticed as I've worked with people outside of our organization, as well as with the leaders within my organization, is that a lot of times we have these questions, but we also need to think about the other side of the question. How will answering this question actually bring us more revenue or reduce our costs? So with that said, we may want to ask, what is my cost per lead so that I can get the best ROI? How am I going to use that cost per lead information? Or what email is driving the most engagement so that I can use that email to fill my sales pipeline? Or what deals need the most attention today so that we can increase our pipeline velocity? You'll notice that all of these fillers on the right are actually key business requirements within our organization. Getting a good ROI on our cost per lead, filling our sales pipeline, increasing pipeline velocity. These are the goals that we have focused on to ensure that our company gets the most value from the investment that we place into sales. So as we go throughout this presentation today, and you think about your data, and you think about what you're trying to drive, beyond just thinking about those questions, I would really encourage you to think about why those questions are going to, in sales, hopefully make you more money. I want to talk a little bit about Domo and how Domo helps organizations, not just sales organizations, but all organizations, do a better job of managing their business and reducing expense and increasing revenue so that they can meet their goals. It's a little bit challenging at times as a sales representative to describe Domo because we've actually built 5 products into one platform. The first thing we do is we connect any of your business data and bring it into our platform. It's a web-based platform that can be used from any device. The second part is taking all of that data and making sure that it's automatically and systematically being prepared on an hourly or minute or day-to-day basis so that it's ready to be visualized and analyzed by you, the end user. The third part is making sure that this data, when built into a report, is very visual so that even end users can quickly understand the stories that your data is trying to tell you. The fourth part is engaging around that data, and this is where we take your data to a new level, making it a lot more easy for you to collaborate with other members of your organization so that you can get the best results from your data. And then the top part of our pyramid here is optimizing your data. So making it easier to discover, react, and engage with your data so that you actually drive better decisions rather than just look at a pretty picture or a pretty report. I want to talk briefly about why each of these aspects to our platform are so important even for a sales organization. So first, connect. You may be using Salesforce, you may be using another CRM, but I bet that there are a lot of different places that you have data as well. You may have information in marketing campaigns that you need access to, like in Eloqua or Marketo or MailChimp. You may have quotas that are stuck in Excel that aren't tied to Salesforce. If you're working closely with marketing, you may have other systems of record that they're using to track leads. Maybe you're working with finance and you need access to the financial database like QuickBooks or Great Plains. Domo makes it easy to not only bring in your sales data, but bring in any other data that you think is relevant to your sales conversations. The second thing Domo does very well is we help you prepare your data. You noticed in the slide before we talked about how we can bring in more than just your Salesforce data. Well, one of the reasons we like to do that is because if we can bring in those quotas that you have from Excel, we can actually show you all of your reps and how they're performing as a percentage of their quota by linking that Salesforce data to their quotas in Excel. So Domo does all of this in the back end so that you don't have to run a new report every day or every week or every month to see who's performing best. The third part of Domo is my favorite part, and the part that usually wows our prospects most quickly, and that's the visual way in which we tell stories. The human brain is wired to be very, very, very visual. In fact, it takes us less than a half a second to get a story from a visual report or visual representation of data. This is important because, especially as we work with sales leaders and sales executives, they don't have time to comb through Excel, nor is that their forte. So being able to create meaningful visualizations that quickly show you, like in this graphic, that Texas, something is going well, it's red hot there, that makes it very easy for us to make quicker decisions and actually move more quickly with the data. I'm going to show you Domo at the end of this presentation so that you have a better understanding of how having visualized reports can actually help you make quicker and better decisions. The fourth part is unique to Domo. There's no other big data or reporting platform that I know of that is more engaging than Domo. So within Domo, any of those reports, which I'm going to show you a few of today, can be collaborated upon. So any user that has access to Domo can start conversations within Domo. So think about the last time you had a fire drill meeting or you celebrated success. It probably started with an email that got looped in with somebody else, and before you knew it, there was a big long string of emails that people had to follow and read up on in order to understand what was happening. With Domo, those conversations are logged and saved right on the report from which they're created. And last but not least, optimization is huge for us. I'm going to show you today in Domo how you can set custom alerts, access your data from anywhere, and really take your data to the next level. Before I move into Domo, I want to talk a little bit about my role and my team at Domo, because I'm going to show you how I use Domo day to day to manage my team, and not only how I use it, but actually how the representatives in sales that report up to me use it so that they can change the way that they do business with our end prospects and end customers. To do that, I want to talk a little bit about our business funnel. I manage a group of 45 account development managers, and the role of an account development manager at Domo is to prepare and qualify leads that can go over to account executives, and account executives then work with those qualified prospects to close deals. So it's a two-part sales process here at Domo. So my team has the responsibility of combing through a massive amount of contacts and prospects and leads within our Salesforce instance. We have a lot in our Salesforce instance, and I don't know how clean your Salesforce instance is, but at times ours can get quite messy. In fact, a lot of my account development managers have more than 30,000 prospects that they're combing through at any given time to find the best. Typically what happens is those lists through marketing and through our reps are blasted emails or are reached out to about other opportunities. And we look for signals. And those signals come from the platform we use, which is Eloqua, where we look for people who are clicking and opening those emails. From those signals, we ask our representatives to identify high-value targets. Other targets might come from LinkedIn or from trade shows that we attend or just from a referral. But most of our targets come from those signals that we see based on email opens and clicks. Once a prospect is in target, those targets are reached out to on an individual basis with individualized emails and personalized phone calls. We have our account development managers maintain a pipeline of targets that they're constantly looking to evaluate. Once those targets engage with our account development managers, they're evaluated. We do a quick phone call of about 15 to 20 minutes where we ask them questions about how they're currently using their data. We make sure that they're qualified and that they are deserving of our account executives' time, or we help point them in the right direction if they're not. Once those evaluations take place, we create opportunities that are transferred to our account executives, and we actually, over here at Domo, continue to aid in the sales process all the way to close collaboratively with our account executives. So most of our account development managers are working with more than one account executive, but they continue to work the sales process all the way to opportunity close. Now the problem is, before we had Domo, we had to teach a rep how to build a list, how to look for marketers, or how to look for someone in finance, or how to look for somebody from one company or another. And we were teaching them how to do this with various queries within Salesforce. And if your sales representatives are anything like mine, they weren't meant to be Salesforce administrators. So before you knew it, we were teaching our reps and spending most of our coaching on how to build all of these reports and maintain them so that reps could easily see what they needed to do on a daily basis. And we found, as we continued to be more and more organized, we were training and coaching more and more and more around report building and query creation. And this is not where we wanted our reps to spend the time. We wanted our reps to spend time identifying signals and going after high-value targets and spending their time evaluating those targets to create opportunities. So I'm going to show you how we're now doing this in Domo. So with that said, let's go over to Domo, and I'm going to show you 5 reports that we use to manage this process. Now we actually have more than 5 reports, but I want to show you 5 today just to keep the message simple. And then as you see Domo, we'd invite you to obviously reach out to us, and we'd love to talk to you about how Domo could work in your organization. What we do may not be best practice for your organization, and the great thing about Domo is everything you see is customizable and can be tweaked or modified to fit your business or your organization's needs. So this is Domo, and this is what we call our sales acceleration page. Now, all of our representatives that work under me have access to this page, and you'll notice that I've organized 5 areas of Domo that match this business funnel that I just showed you. Within each of these collections, I'm going to show you a report on how we build lists, how we identify signals, how we track our targets, how we see if we have enough evaluators, and then how many opportunities we have in pipeline. So let's start at the top. Now that we're in this building list card, I want to talk about how an individual representative could actually use this card to identify prospects that they may want to mass email. In this situation, we're actually using this right now. We're preparing to attend Dreamforce, and we've identified thousands and thousands of contacts that in our database attended Dreamforce in prior years, but also titles that may indicate that they'll attend Dreamforce, or locations like being on the West Coast or up in San Francisco. Typically, we've trained our reps on how to identify these by building queries and reports in Salesforce. But again, this takes our reps away from speaking with the prospects and moving them through the sales cycle. So using Domo, what we've done on the back end is identify what a target prospect for Dreamforce would actually look like and put them into a card where our reps can go through and quickly comb and identify prospects that they may want to invite to attend Dreamforce or come by our booth and the other setups that we have at Dreamforce. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to use Andrew Lake as an example. So Andrew's one of our reps, and you'll notice in this report, Andrew has 29 prospects that may be attending Dreamforce per the criteria that we've set as management. We've made it really easy for Andrew when he clicks in to see exactly where those prospects work. Now you'll notice that this report's dynamic. So all of our reports within Domo have drill paths if you want them. And a drill path allows you to see filtered visualizations based on an area in the prior visualization that you clicked on. So when I clicked on Andrew's name, I see all 29 contacts, but now they're organized by company. If you're looking at lead score, you could have them organized by lead score. If you want to look at a completely different metric and have the drill path different, that's totally up to you. The thing that I love about Domo is that it allows you to see what you want to see, how you want to see it, whenever you want to see it. So now that Andrew's in this report and in this drill path, he notices that 10 prospects from Kabloom may be attending Dreamforce. Kabloom's one of the accounts that Andrew and his account executive are working on penetrating. Andrew can click in here and see the names of all of these contacts and their titles as well. And you'll notice that each of those contacts have an ID that Andrew could copy and paste into Excel if he wanted to run a mass update on these contacts to identify them in the future in Salesforce. The other thing Andrew can do is quickly click into the prospect and make a change. When Andrew clicks on this, he'll be taken back to Salesforce where he can edit that contact, Jerry Wilson, quickly and efficiently within the native platform. After Andrew has sent a variety of mass emails from different lists, Andrew can see who is opening and clicking on those emails. What you're going to see on this report is 3 variables. So this is almost like a 3D representation of all the contacts that are engaging with Andrew Lake's mass emails. So on the x-axis, we have days since last open, or days since last email open by a prospect. On the y-axis, we see days since last phone call by Andrew Lake. And then the size of the bubble is how many prospects within these accounts are actually opening and engaging with Andrew Lake's emails. So you'll notice over here, Andrew has, from Kabloom, a lot of prospects who recently opened emails, but that Andrew hasn't reached out to recently. So this is a really good opportunity for Andrew to come in and see these prospects. And he may see here that Jerry Wilson is one of those prospects. And the nice thing about Domo is that Andrew can click and go directly to Salesforce where he can update Jerry Lake's record after he enters in his login credentials to Salesforce. So this is another really quick way that Andrew can get access into his Salesforce account and work seamlessly between the 2 platforms. After we've identified those signals, we reach out to these targets who are in our pipeline. This card is actually a compilation of a lot of different reports. You'll notice I have all of my reps on the left side, but I have all of the reasons that I may be reaching out to representatives. So we go to a lot of trade shows at Domo, and we're always looking to see which prospects from trade shows we need to work on. Now, our CMO also really likes us to follow up on these trade show leads. So we've created an agreement, a truce with our CMO, that she'll spend more money on trade shows if we'll dial them to expectations. So one of the things we've done with this card is we've said, if the prospect has not received a dial in the last 36 hours, it needs to show up in this report. So this doesn't require any energy from our representatives. Once we do that on the back end, it shows up into this card. The second is inbound leads. So again, we have an agreement with our CMO that if she spends more money on web spend, that we will dial inbound demo requests at a certain volume. Now down here below, we have a bunch of different categories that the reps have selected. So as reps noticed people from signals like Jerry Lake, they could say that they may want to do an initial reach out. And when they tag that contact and set the date for contact, it will show up in this report that's called Today's Target Next Steps. So these are all of the personalized targets that need to be reached out to today. So it makes it easy for someone like Andrew, again, to go in and see what's going on with his day. He has 2 scheduled introductions, 1 person he needs to invite to one of our events, 2 people he's identified for initial reach out, 6 people that requested demos, and 8 trade show leads that he can follow up with. And again, Andrew can quickly drive in and see what all of those contacts are, and again, go into Jerry Wilson's Salesforce record as long as he has his Salesforce credentials, and immediately use a tool like Click to Call from Inside Sales to make a dial. We've found that this has made our reps a whole lot more efficient. Now, if you're anything like our organization, you know that it's important to manage your representatives to a metric before the key metric that you're actually being paid on. And one of the things that we do is we measure our reps on future IQ calls. An IQ call for us is essentially a pre-discovery call. I stands for infrastructure, C challenges, U use case, and E evaluation. It's similar to BAMP methodology. We've noticed that the number of IQ calls that our reps have set up in the future is directly correlated to how many opportunities that they pass over to our account executives. And when those opportunities are accepted by our account executives, our representatives are paid. And that's how we all get paid within my organization, within my department. So it's important for us to look for those leading key performance indicators that help us understand if we're going to hit our number of accepted opportunities. So you'll notice in this report, we actually are showing all of our reps future IQs. And the goal that we want our reps to have at any given time is 7. Now, a lot of times we'll manage reps and we'll say you need to have 7 per month. But the thing about these IQ calls is as they're accepted by our account executives, then we have fewer future IQ calls. So we always want 7 in the pipeline, similar to the same way an account executive would want to have a certain dollar value in the pipeline above their quota. They may want 2 or 3x their quota in pipeline at all times to ensure they hit their quota. We do the same thing with these IQ calls. Now you'll notice that the way we visualized this is very differently. We're showing the reps that are above goal. So you'll notice up here, Kiona has 4 above target pipeline, but Andrew, who we talked about before, is 3 below goal. Now the nice thing about drilling into this report is we're actually going to use a different visualization than the ones that I've shown before. And in this one, we're actually going to show all of Andrew's future IQs on a calendar. So as a manager here, I can see that Andrew has 2 in August, but I'm really concerned because his other 2 IQ calls are scheduled for September and October. That's not going to help Andrew or me hit the number that we're held to in August. And from there, I can make changes with Andrew and hopefully increase his performance with 25 days to go. Now, the other thing you might be thinking as you've looked at all of this is great. I have a lot of reports already, and I actually have so many that I get overwhelmed. Well, the nice thing about Domo is we make it easy to stay on top of your reports when you set goals and when you also set alerts. So let's say next time Andrew drops below 0 or any of these representatives, I just wanted Domo to notify me. I could create an alert here that says when any item here goes below 0, remember 0 indicates that we're right at goal in this report, then I want to be notified. What Domo will do when I save this alert is it will actually send me a text message and or an email so that anytime any of these reps have fewer than 7 future IQ calls, I'll be notified. Maybe I want to actually delete this alert and I'm the team lead on Maisie and I'm worried about Maisie's performance, so maybe I only set the alert for Maisie. Notice that Domo gives you the ability to do this quickly and simply so that you can measure anything you want, but also be alerted on anything that you want. The other aspect that we talked about earlier is being able to engage with your data. So in the same way that I can set these alerts, I can also let Andrew know that I'm worried about his performance. So I can open up Domo Buzz, which is available on every report. And we don't have any discussions going on right here, but I can actually mention to Andrew that I'm worried about his future IQ calls. Andrew would obviously have access to this report in a normal instance, and so I let Andrew know, hey, I'm worried about your future IQs. Anything else set up right now? Let's chat next time I walk by. And then I can keep this conversation private between just me and Andrew. And once I post this, Andrew's going to get a notification via email and text and can respond very, very quickly. Now, Andrew might actually be on the go, and if you're a different type of sales organization, you may actually do a lot of field sales, or you may have your reps travel in addition to doing inside sales. So if Andrew's on the road and he gets this text, he can actually open up our Domo app where he gets the exact same experience. He can respond to this message that I just sent, or Andrew can also drill in and see those future IQ calls and see that one that he had scheduled for October, which ones he needs to move into August, and hopefully push the prospect to evaluate Domo sooner. So mobile is another experience that we give our customers so that they can optimize their use of their data. All right, I told you that I'd share a little bit in relation to opportunities and how we track opportunities within Domo. This is different than the other 4 reports that you've seen, and we call this a Domo app. A Domo app is where we actually take multiple sources of information and multiple KPIs and bring them into an infographic-like experience. We used to call these lovingly Domo graphics because they're very much a collaboration of a lot of information. So you'll notice here that as a sales leader or sales executive, I can see exactly what's going on in my pipeline really quickly. But if I wanted to evaluate all of my reps in one place or do quarterly business reviews or monthly reviews with my reps, I could use something like an all reps scorecard. So again, we call this an app, and the purpose of this app is to give us a really clean experience to manage and to look at multiple layers of data and multiple KPIs all in one place. What you're going to see here is a variety of metrics along the top of the chart. And along the top of the chart, you're going to see that we could have put these in multiple reports or multiple cards. So if I'm responsible for Aaron or Adam, I can see how they're doing across various metrics. So let's look at Amory. Amory's at 90K in sales for the month, 51% of quota attainment, has only won one deal, has a pretty decent conversion rate, and has an average deal size of 90K. Sales cycle is a little bit slow at 27 days. And where I'm really concerned about Amory as her manager when I look at this report is that Amory has been here 256 days. So when I look at this, I say Amory's not really moving at the potential that we'd want her to. And I'm able to do this with all of my reps so that I can see all of this information and compare them across a variety of metrics. We found this to be very, very helpful when we evaluate the performance of our reps. A lot of times we only look at one metric and we ignore the fact that our representatives are good at other metrics. We've used this to understand from our representatives, hey, how are you getting a bigger average deal, or how are you closing the sales cycle? This helps us understand a lot more quickly so that we can identify reps' strengths and their weaknesses a lot more quickly. I want to thank you for seeing this demo of Domo. Like I said, Domo's fully customizable and can be used in a variety of situations. I understand that your sales organization probably isn't set up exactly like ours. So what we'd love to do next is show you a demo that's customized to you on how you could use Domo in the way that you're driving your business. Thanks for joining and have a great day.
It's great to be a part of this today, and I appreciate you inviting me. At Blue Wolf for the past 15 years, as you mentioned, we've been helping organizations of all shapes and sizes to sell and service to their customers. We've primarily done that through the cloud, through a very tight partnership with Salesforce.com. And I think what we've really seen in the last 15 years is a drive to helping sales organizations and service organizations become more productive, get to their customers faster, and drive some business outcomes out of the cloud. But I think what we're seeing today is like something we've never seen before, and it really feels like we're on the cusp of something. I think you identified that when you made the move over to inside sales a few months ago, and it's all being driven out of this digital revolution, which I think for most organizations is creating a ton of opportunity, but it's probably also creating a lot of confusion and a lot of questions in terms of what we need to do next and what we need to do to harness all of this data. Because if you look at the global marketplace, IBM tells us that 90% of the data in the world today has been created in the last 2 years. I mean, we see these statistics all over the place now. Forrester said that most companies estimate they're only analyzing 12% of their data. I'd argue that that number is actually much smaller than that. If I look at most of the companies that we work with, particularly Consent, we're creating 2.5 quintillion bytes of data every day. I don't even know what a quintillion is. That seems like a tremendous amount of information that all of a sudden is exploding into the marketplace. Another statistic here, the total amount of data captured and stored doubles every 1.2 years. So the bottom line is, it's massive. And I think executives across every industry are recognizing that the most valuable companies in the world are exceeding data, right? Let's look at some examples. When you look at a company like LinkedIn, this is a company that has turned the world of recruiting and employment upside down. They've changed it forever, specifically because they've figured out how to harness social and data. Another great example is Uber, is completely upending the world of transportation, specifically because they've figured out how to network together consumers and drivers and transportation through a very simple application. another great example is Twitter, right? Twitter just announced or just launched their live product where you can stream real-time video. Look at the statistics that we just talked about. Those numbers are only going to multiply by extreme factors in the coming 5 years. So data is everywhere, it's massive, and the most valuable companies in the world are exploiting data. And they're doing it either to connect people, or they're doing it to connect things, or they're doing it to connect people to things. The other thing to think about is that the cloud is making this data explosion easy, and it's making it live. Products like Salesforce, products like Inside Sales, products like Workday, all of these cloud applications are actually allowing for the consumption of this data in a way that organizations can move much faster than they could have if they had to put that infrastructure in place themselves. But when we think about data, we have to remind ourselves that it's only valuable if it can be presented and acted upon through simple applications. Because that's the other beauty of things like Uber and LinkedIn. They've figured out how to harness data through a very simple and easy to use interface that's mobile, that's live, that's always on. So organizations and enterprises that are moving towards the best-in-class usage of data are not only harnessing this data, but they're also propagating it through simple-to-use applications that users can gravitate to and learn and use as productivity tools in their day-to-day lives. So when we think about data at Blue Wolf and when we talk to customers, we really try to put it into 4 buckets. And in today's day and age, to harness this explosion of data, the first thing that we like to talk to customers about is the necessity of live data. The whole batch world that we've been living in for the past 50 years is coming to a close. Data that is live is data that can be acted upon. It's data that you can present to customers in real time. It's data that you can actually use to grow your enterprise. A great example of that is a client of ours, Sonova, which is an energy company, and they have people, thousands of people in the field all day long presenting pricing information to their customers. And that pricing data actually changes on an hourly basis. So to present relevant quotes, to present relevant information to their customers, they have to have live data. And Sonova's gone to great lengths to put a data management system in place that allows that data to be live in front of their customers. So that's the first tenet that we believe is very important in terms of harnessing data for your organization. It must be live. It also has to be clean. The information that your users and your executives rely on a daily basis has to be clean, and it has to be easy to use. A great example of that is a customer of ours, GlaxoSmithKline, that has thousands of people in the field calling on physicians and doctors. And these doctors move around a lot. They move between hospitals, between their practices, between clinics. And having the information about their whereabouts and their locations so that product can be shipped to them, so that orders can be placed, and so that visits can be made needs to be completely accurate. So having a data cleanliness strategy and having a data steward strategy in an organization is extremely important. Because with all this data, if it's not clean, it's irrelevant, and it actually causes more confusion for our customers. On top of that, to get clean data, it has to be mastered. Today we're living in an omni-channel world. Data is coming in through the internet, it's coming over the phone, it's coming through social media, it's coming through text, and organizations have to have a master record of their customer, of their product. So the best-in-class organizations today that are leveraging this data and doing the really cool things that we're going to talk about in a minute have taken the time and effort to put a data master plan in place and to put master data management techniques in place so that there's always an upstream record that is the master that feeds the downstream engagement data that organizations rely on in front of their customers. And then lastly, your data has to be complete. With this explosion of data, very rarely do we see customers trying to pick and choose which data they want to capture. most organizations, because the cost of storage and because of the cloud is available, are choosing to capture every single piece of data that they can, because they can't determine which nuggets of data are actually going to lead to the predictive insights that will ultimately lead to customer engagement and to increased value for their organizations. So in order to achieve these prescriptive insights that Jim will talk about in a few minutes, it requires organizations to collect and move massive amounts of data in real time. And we see best-in-class organizations doing that. Let's talk for a second about the 4 stages of analytics and how you eventually get to prescriptive. Most organizations today are kind of stuck in what we call the descriptive phase of analytics, which is really a rear-view mirror view of what's happened in the past. And a lot of organizations today can run reports and look at dashboards that tell them, hey, this is how much we sold last quarter or last month. This is how much we've put in the pipeline. This is how many cases we're currently trying to crank through in our customer service organization. And I think most organizations, for the most part, have nailed the descriptive piece of analytics. The next phase is really the diagnostic phase. Why did something happen? Why did we add X amount into our pipeline? Why do we have all of these customer service complaints? And that's the second stage that we see on the analytics maturity scale. I'd say probably about 50% of the organizations that we work with can actually answer the why question. But where this really gets interesting is when you can start to mine all of this data that you've collected that is complete, that's clean, that's live, and you can start to talk about what's going to happen next based upon prior action. And organizations that are moving into the best-in-class stages from an analytics perspective are really now moving into this predictive phase where they can look at why a customer might leave their organization based upon how many calls have been made into the call center over what topics, based upon what products maybe have not been shipped on time, based upon what phone calls haven't been answered. And an organization can grab all of that data, mix it with social data, and start to predict that, hey, these are customers that are unhappy, or these are customers that are ready to buy more, or these are customers that we need to get tighter with. And we're starting to see organizations step up and really take a crack at this predictive world, which is answering the question, what's going to happen next? And then the fourth holy grail portion of this, of our analytics maturity scale, is talking about what to do about it. If we know what happened, if we know why it happened, if we now know what's likely to happen next, what's the next best action that we can put into the hands of a call center agent, that we can put into the hands of a sales rep, that we can put into the hands of a product specialist or an executive? How can we start to prescribe action in our organizations so that we're allocating our resource towards customer satisfaction and customer engagement? And that's what we're going to talk about in a few minutes here, because Inside Sales has some great solutions and they have a great message and a great approach to how prescriptive works. At the end of the day, why do we care? I always like to remind customers that before we get caught up in trying to capture all of our data, before we worry about master data management and live data, before we worry about what's the next best great cloud-based application that we can deploy, these are all technologies. They're all ripe with opportunity, but they're also all somewhat complex. And we always like to drive the conversation back to what's the business outcome that an organization is looking to achieve. And we believe there are 4 main economic drivers for business outcomes in an organization. Number 1, are you trying to acquire new customers? Are you trying to shorten your sales cycle and really look at how you're growing market share? Or number 2, are you looking at how you increase the amount of spend or the amount of engagement that you have with your existing customer base, which would be the expansion quadrant of business outcomes, and that's generally through incremental cross-sell, upsell, pricing changes. Then the third economic driver of a business outcome that we look at before we make a technology decision is around cost reduction. Can we reduce the cost that it takes to acquire and serve customers? Do we have too many sales reps out in the field just taking orders when we could actually create a self-serve channel that would be better for the customer as well as better for allocating that sales resource into an acquisitive mode? And then lastly, customer retention. You know, retaining customers and reducing customer churn, there's a tremendous opportunity to use predictive and prescriptive analytics to really identify those customers that need attention, that maybe need the next release of your product, that maybe need a more frequent visit from your sales organization or your executives. Using prescriptive and predictive analytics to really look at customer retention is what we're seeing a lot of enterprise organizations drive towards. And again, like I said, at the end of the day, you need a simple, easy-to-use application that can be the conduit for all of this data and that can drive the prescriptive behavior and that can drive the predictive behavior that organizations are looking for.